I'm getting chilled to the bone. What can Freddie be doing all this time? He's been gone 20 minutes.
Oh, not so long, but he ought to have got us a cab by this.
He won't get no cab till 11:30, missus. That's when they all come back after dropping off their affairs.
But we must have a cab. We can't stand here until 11:30. It's too bad.
Well, that ain't my fault, missus.
If Freddie had a bit of gumption, he would have got one at the theatre door.
Well, what could he have done, poor boy?
Other people got cabs. Why couldn't he? Oh, well, haven't you gotten a cab?
There's not one to be had for love or money.
Oh, Freddie, there must be one. You can't have tried.
You're tiresome. Do you expect us to go and get one ourselves?
I tell you, they're all engaged. The rain was so sudden, nobody was prepared, and everybody had to take a cab. I've been to Charing Cross one way and nearly to Ludgate Circus the other, and they were all engaged.
Oh, did you try Trafalgar Square?
There wasn't one at Trafalgar Square.
Did you try?
I tried as far as Charing Cross Station. Did you expect me to walk to Hammersmith?
You haven't tried at all.
Oh, you really are very helpless, Freddie. Go again, and don't come back until you have found a cab.
I shall simply get soaked for nothing.
And what about us? Are we to stay here all night in this draft with next to nothing on? You selfish pig.
Oh, very well, I'll go.
Oh. Now then, Freddie, look where you're going there.
Sorry.
So, there's manners for you. 2 bunches of violets trod in the mud. Oh.
How do you know that my son's name is Freddie, pray?
Oh, he's your son, is he? Well, if you'd done your duty by him as a mother should, he'd know better than to spoil a poor girl's flowers and then run away without paying. Will you pay me for them?
I'll do nothing of the sort, Mother. The idea.
Oh, please allow me, Clara. Have you any pennies?
I have nothing smaller than a 6pence.
Or I can give you change for a tenner coin, lady.
Give it to me now. This is for your flowers.
Oh, thank you, kind lady.
Make her give you the change. These things are only a penny a bunch.
Do hold your tongue, Clara. You can keep the change.
Oh, thank you, lady.
Now, tell me how you know that young gentleman's name.
I didn't.
I heard you call him by it. Don't deceive me.
Who's trying to deceive you? I called him Freddie or Charlie, same as you might yourself if you was talking to a stranger and wished to be pleasant.
6pence thrown away. Really, Mamma, you might have spared Freddie that.
Oh, sir, is there any sign of it stopping?
Oh, I'm afraid not. It started worse than ever about 2 minutes ago.
Oh, dear.
Oh, if it's worse, it's a sign it's nearly over. So cheer up, Captain, have a flower off a poor girl.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have change.
Oh, I can give change, Captain.
For a sovereign, I've nothing less.
Gone. Oh, do buy a flower off me, Captain. I can change half a crown. Take this for a 2pence.
No, don't be troublesome, there's a good girl. Look, I really don't have it. No, stop. Here's 3pence, if that's of any use to you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you be careful. Give him a flower for it. There's a bloke here behind taking down every blessed word you're saying.
I ain't done nothing wrong by speaking to the gentleman. I'm a right to sell flowers if I keep off the curb. Oh, sir, don't let him charge me. You don't know what it means to me. They'll take away my character and drive me on the streets for speaking to gentlemen.
There! Who's hurting you, you silly girl? What do you take me for?
It's all right. He's a gentleman. Look at his boots. She thought you were a copper copper's nark, sir.
Coppers? What's a copper's nark?
Well, it's a copper's nark, as you might say. What else would you call it? A sort of informer.
I take my Bible oath I never said a word.
Well, then, shut up. Do I look like a policeman?
Well, then what did you take down my words for? How do I know whether you took me down right? You just show me what you wrote about me. What's that? That ain't proper writing. I can't read that.
I can. Cheer up, Captain, and have a flower for poor girl.
No, it's because I called him Captain. I mean no harm. Oh, sir, don't let him lay a charge against me for a word like that, you!
Please, there's charge. I make no charge. Look, really, sir, if you are a detective, you need not begin protecting me against molestation by young women until I ask you. Anybody could see that the girl meant no harm.
Yeah.
Of course they could.
No harm at all.
Such a fuss.
Surely alone.
He ain't a tick. He's a bloomin' busybody, that's what he is. I tell you, look at his boots.
And how are all your people down at Selsey, eh?
Who told you my people were from Selsey?
Yes, well, never you mind, they did. Ah, and you, young lady, how do you come to be so far up east? You were born in Lisson Grove.
Whoa, what harm is there in me leaving Lisson Grove? It wasn't fit for a pig to live in, and I had to pay 4 and 6 a week.
Oh, live where you like, but stop that noise.
Come. Look, he can't touch you. You have a right to live where you please.
Yeah. Park Lane, for instance. I'd like to go into the housing question with you, I would.
I'm a good girl, I am.
Hey, do you know where I come from?
Hoxton.
Well, who said I didn't? Oh, blimey. You know everything, you do.
Ain't no call to meddle with me, he ain't.
Of course he ain't. Don't you stand it for him. See here, what call of you to know about people would never offer to meddle with you? Where's your warrant?
Yeah, where's your warrant?
Yeah.
Let him say what he likes. I don't want to have no truck with him.
You take us for dirt under your feet, don't you? Catching liberties with a gentleman.
Yes. Tell him where he come from if you want to go fortune telling.
Cheltenham, Harrow, Cambridge, and India.
That's right.
I mean,
May I ask you, sir, do you do this for a living at a music hall?
Well, I've thought of that. Perhaps I shall someday.
He's no gentleman, he ain't, to interfere with a poor girl.
What on earth is Freddie doing? I shall get pneumonia if I stay out here in this draft any longer.
Yeah. Earl's Court.
Will you please keep your impertinent remarks to yourself?
Oh, did I say that out loud? Didn't mean to. I beg your pardon. Your mother's Epsom, unmistakably.
How very curious. I was brought up in Large Lady Park, near Epsom.
Large Lady! What a devil of a name! Excuse me. You want a cab, don't you?
Don't you dare speak to me.
Oh, please, Clara. We should be so grateful to you, sir, if you found us a cab. Thank you.
there! I knowed he was a plainclothes copper.
That ain't a police whistle, it's a sporting whistle.
He's got no right to take away my character. My character is the same as any lady's.
I don't know whether you've noticed it, but the rain stopped about 2 minutes ago.
Why, so it has. Why didn't you say so before and us losing our time listening to your silliness?
Hey, I can tell where you come from. You come from Anwell. Go back there.
Anwell.
Oh, thank you, teacher. Oh, so long.
Frightening people like that. How would he like it himself?
It's quite fine now, Clara. We can walk to a motor bus. Come.
Up in the cab. Ah, how tiresome.
Oh, God, I've never had to live without being worried and chippied.
How do you do it, may I ask?
Simply phonetics, the science of speech. That's my profession, also my hobby. Happy is the man who can make a living by his hobby. You can spot an Irishman or a Yorkshireman by his brogue. I can place a man within 6 miles. I can place him within 2 miles in London, sometimes within 2 streets.
Ought to be ashamed of himself, unmanly coward.
But is there a living in it?
Oh, yes, quite a fat one. This is the age of upstarts. Men begin in Kentish Town with £80 a year and end in Park Lane with 100,000. They want to drop Kentish Town, but they give themselves away every time they open their mouths. Now, I can teach them.
Mind his own business and leave a poor girl.
Woman, cease this detestable boo-hooing instantly, or else seek the shelter of some other place of worship.
I've a right to be here if I like, same as you.
A woman who utters such depressing and disgusting sounds has no right to be anywhere, no right to live. Remember that you are a human being with a soul and the divine gift of articulate speech, that your native language is the language of Shakespeare and Milton and the Bible. And don't sit there crooning like a bilious pigeon. Look at her, prisoner of the gutters. Condemned by every syllable she utters. By rights she should be taken out and hung for the cold-blooded murder of the English tongue. Heavens, what a star!
Exactly right, Mr. Higgins, or whoever you are. Oh, heavens, what a sound indeed. This is all nonsense. This isn't my play.
I'm sorry, but who are you? What?
Well, this is a performance of My Fair Lady, sir, and I'm going to have to insist that you get off the stage at once.
It was billed as Pygmalion, which you are currently desecrating by inserting this egregious example of modern frippery in the form of music.
Well, I'm sorry, but this is 2021, and nobody performs a spoken play anymore. I mean, most people don't even know that it exists. People want My Fair Lady. Hardly anyone knows anymore.
It was billed as Pygmalion, the play, not the musical. My play, not this rambunctious, all-singing, all-dancing, pseudo-romantic musical offal that masquerades as my greatest single literary success. I am the writer, and I forbid you from performing this filth.
Now, George?
It's Bernard! Or rather, Mr. Shaw, to you, you contemptible young upstart. Who are you, anyway?
Mr. Shaw, I am the director. And as I said, it's 2021. And look, you're supposed to be dead. You died in 1950.
Well, if you keep performing this nonsense, I may as well be. A woman director, eh? This certainly things have moved on since my time. Now, why don't you make use of the fact that I have somehow risen from my grave through the paths of literary imagination or whatever it is, and put my considerable talents to good use? I guarantee you that this play of mine, if properly performed, can certainly outdo that chumped-up musical abomination of Mr. Lerner and Mr. Lowe. I never endorsed it, and its smarmy intimations of romance. Mr. Lerner and Mr. Lowe kindly waited for me to die before they put this abomination on the stage.
Excuse me, Mr. Shaw, but you really are spoiling the show for the audience. I must ask you again to step aside. You can't just walk in here and expect it to take over.
But I am the author, madam.
What do you suggest we do?
I suggest you get rid of these musicians.
Music director, maestro, can I have a word with you, please?
Thank you.
I suppose, seeing as we have the esteemed playwright himself here, we'd better make the best of it and save My Fair Lady for another day.
Now, just a minute. This is outrageous. What about my band?
Well, I'm very sorry, but we're going to have to discuss this later with management. I'm making an executive decision here. We've got a full audience. The show has to simply go on in some form.
You'll be hearing about this from my union.
Well, I'll take the fall for it. We can't just have the author rise from the dead and just not take any notice of him and what he wants. We can't just ignore Mr. Shaw here, or Mr. Shaw's ghost, or whatever he is. Look, God knows what he might do. He might haunt us forever.
That's ridiculous! Tutti sarà I am leaving.
This is the limit.
It's tuned up and everything.
There's a limit to my patience.
This is the only job I've had in months.
An artiste can only be pushed so far.
That's the last time I worked for Stream Shakespeare.
As I'm now preventing Mr. Higgins from singing his opening song, if I can call that squawking the most musical Higgins scene to produce singing, I will instead continue with my own interpretation of the facts about our professor's profession and the premise of our play, and why I wrote it in the first place. The English have no respect for their language and will not teach their children how to speak it. They spell it so abominably that no man can teach himself what it sounds like. It is impossible for the Englishman to open his mouth without making some other Englishman hate or despise him. German and Spanish are accessible to foreigners. English is not accessible even to Englishmen. The reformer England needs today is an energetic, phonetic enthusiast, which is why I've made such a one the hero of a popular play. And if this play makes the public aware that there's such people as phoneticians, and that they are among the most important people in England at present, it will serve its turn. I will boast that, despite what our young director here claims, Pygmalion has been an extremely successful play all over Europe and North America, as well as at home in England, and it has been very successful despite the lack of singing and dancing. And even though it is no real romance, even though it is didactic, it is so intensely and deliberately didactic, and its subject is esteemed so dry that I delight in throwing it to the heads of the wiseacres who repeat the Pyrrhic cry that art should never be didactic. It goes to prove that art should never be anything else.
Are you quite finished, Mr. Shaw?
Yes, very well. You may proceed with my play.
Right, well, cast, we'll continue where we left off before the musical intro. No music, I repeat, no music at all. I'll handle this. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, I sincerely apologise for any inconvenience. We'll be continuing with the spoken play, Pygmalion, with no music. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Heavens, what a sound! You see this creature here with her curbstone English? The English that will keep her in the gutter to the end of her days. Well, sir, in 3 months, I could pass that girl off as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. I could even get her a place as lady's maid or shop assistant, which requires better English. That's the sort of thing I do for commercial millionaires. And on the profits of it, I do genuine scientific work in phonetics and a little as a poet on Miltonic lines.
Well, I myself am a student of Indian dialects.
Are you? Do you know Colonel Pickering, the author of Spoken Sanskrit?
I am Colonel Pickering. Who are you?
Aha! Henry Higgins, author of Higgins' Universal Alphabet.
I came from India to meet you.
I was going to India to meet you.
Well, where do you live?
27A Wimpole Street. Come and see me tomorrow.
Oh, I'm at the Carlton. Come with me now and we'll have a jaw over some supper.
Right you are.
Buy a flower, kind gentlemen. I'm short for my lodging.
Oh, I really haven't any change. I'm sorry.
Liar. You said you could change half a crown.
You ought to be stuffed with nails, you ought. Take the whole blooming basket for 6p.
Reminder.
Got one at last. Hello? Where are the two ladies that were here?
They walked to the bus when the rain stopped.
They left me with a cab on my hands. Damnation.
Oh, never you mind, young man. I'm going home in a taxi.
Hello, young lady. Where will I take you to?
Oh, 8p ain't no object to me, no sir, Charlie. Oh, Angel Court, Drury Lane, round the corner of Mickle John's oil shop. Let's see how fast you can make it up to it, eh?
Well, I'm dashed.
Well, is that it?
Is what it?
Seeing as what passes here for a sect is nothing at all to speak of, I see I will need to supply the necessary information myself.
Oh, no, just hang on a minute.
It is now the next day at 11 a.m. at Higgins' laboratory in Wimpole Street. It is a room on the first floor, looking on the street, and was meant for the drawing room. In the corner stands a flat writing table on which are a phonograph, a laryngoscope, a row of tiny organ pipes with a bellows, a set of lamp chimneys for singing flames with burners attached to a gas plug in the wall by an India rubber tube, several tuning forks of different sizes, a life-size image of half a human head showing in section the vocal organs, and a box containing a supply of wax cylinders for the phonograph. In the middle of the room is a piano. On the piano is a dessert dish heaped with fruit and sweets, mostly chocolates.
Pickering is seated at the table. He's putting down some cards and a tuning fork, which he has been using. Higgins is standing up near him, closing file drawers. He appears in the morning as a robust, vital, appetizing sort of man of 40 or more. Dressed in a professional-looking manner, he is of the energetic and scientific type, violently interested in everything that can be studied as a scientific subject, and careless about himself and other people, including their feelings. He is, in fact, rather like a very impetuous baby and requiring almost as much watching as a baby does to keep him out of intended mischief. His manner varies from genial bullying when he's in good humor to stormy petulance when anything goes wrong. But he is so entirely frank and void of malice that he remains likable even in his least reasonable moments.
Now, look here.
Proceed. Act 2.
Sir Pickering? I think that's the whole show.
Well, it's really amazing. I mean, I haven't taken half of it in, you know.
Would you like me to go over it all again?
Oh, no, thank you. Not now. I'm quite done up for this morning.
Well, tired of listening to sounds, I'll bet.
Yes, it's a fearful strain. I rather fancied myself because I can pronounce 24 different vowel sounds, but your 130 beat me. I can't hear a bit of difference between most of them, you know.
Yes, well, that comes with practice, eh? You hear no difference at first, but you keep on listening, and presently you find that all is different as A from B. Mrs. Pierce, what's the matter?
A young woman wants to see you, sir.
A young woman? What does she want?
Well, sir, she says you'll be glad to see her when you know what she's come about. She's quite a common girl, sir. Very common indeed. I should have sent her away, only I thought perhaps you wanted her to talk into your machines. I hope I've not done wrong, but really, you see such queer people sometimes. Oh, you'll excuse me, I'm sure, sir.
That's all right, Mrs. Pierce. Has she an interesting accent?
Oh, something dreadful, sir, really. I don't know how you can take an interest in it.
Well, let's have her up, shall we, Pig? Show her up, Mrs. Pierce.
Very well, sir. It's for you to say.
Oh, it's rather a bit of luck, Pig. I'll show you how I make records. We'll set her talking. I'll take it down first in Bell's visible speech, then in broad Romic, and then we'll get her on the phonograph so that you can turn her on as often as you like with the written transcript in front of you.
This is the young woman, sir.
Why, this is the girl I jotted down last night. She's no use. I've got all the records I want of the Listen Grove lingo, and I'm not going to waste another cylinder on her. Be off with you, girl. I don't want you.
Don't you be saucy. You ain't heard what I come for yet. Did you tell him I come in a taxi?
Oh, nonsense, girl. What do you think a gentleman like Mr. Higgins cares what you came in?
Oh, we are proud. He ain't above giving lessons, not him. I heard him say so. Well, I ain't come here to ask for any compliment, and if my money's not good enough, I can go elsewhere.
Good enough for what?
Good enough for you. Now you know, don't you? I'm come to have lessons, I am, and pay for him too, make no mistake.
Well, what do you expect me to say to you?
Well, if you was a gentleman, you might ask me to sit down, I think. Don't I tell you I'm bringing you business?
Pickering, shall we ask this baggage to sit down, or shall we throw her out the window?
I won't be called a baggage when I've offered to pay like any lady.
What is it you want, my girl?
Oh, I want to be a lady in the flower shop instead of selling at the corner of Tottenham Court Road. But they won't take me unless I can talk more genteel. He said he could teach me. Well, here I am, ready to pay him, not asking any favour. Then he treats me as if I was dead.
Oh, how can you be such a foolish, ignorant girl as to think you could afford to pay Mr. Higgins?
Why shouldn't I? I know what lessons cost as well as you do when I'm ready to pay.
How much?
Oh, now you're talking. Oh, I thought you'd come off it when you saw a chance of getting back a bit of what you chucked at me last night. You'd had a drop in there, hadn't you?
Sit down.
Oh, if you're going to make a compliment of it.
Sit down!
Oh, sit down, girl. Oh, do as you're told.
Won't you sit down?
Don't mind if I do.
Now, what's your name, girl?
Liza Doolittle.
Liza. Elizabeth, Betsy and Bess, they went to the woods to get a bird's nest.
They found a nest with 4 eggs in it.
And they took one apiece and left 3 in it.
No, don't be silly.
Oh, you mustn't speak to the gentleman like that.
Well, why won't you talk sensible to me?
Come back to business. How much do you propose to pay me for the lessons?
No, I know what's right. A lady friend of mine gets French lessons for 18 pence an hour from a real French gentleman. Well, you wouldn't have the face to ask me the same for teaching me my own language as you would for French. So I won't give more than a shilling. Take it or leave it.
You know, Pickering, if you consider a shilling not as a simple shilling, but as a percentage of the girl's income, it works out as fully equivalent to 60 or 70 guineas for a millionaire.
How so?
Oh, figure it out. The millionaire has about, £150 a day. She earns about half a crown.
Who told you I only...
She offers me 2/5 of a day's income for a lesson. 2/5 of a millionaire's income for a day would be somewhere about £60, yeah? It's handsome. By George, it's enormous. It's the biggest offer I've ever had.
£60? What are you talking about? Oh, I never offered £60. Where would I get?
Hold your tongue, girl.
I ain't got £60.
Oh, look, don't cry, you silly girl. Sit down. Nobody's going to touch your money.
Nobody's going to touch you with a broomstick if you don't stop snivelling. Sit down.
One would think you was my father.
Yes. If I decide to teach you, it'll be worse than two fathers. Here. Take that. Go.
What's this for?
To wipe your eyes, to wipe any part of your face that feels moist. Remember, that's your handkerchief and that's your sleeve. And don't mistake the one for the other if you wish to become a lady in a shop.
Oh, it's no use talking to her like that, Mr. Higgins. She doesn't understand you. Oh, besides, you're quite wrong. She doesn't do it that way at all.
Yeah, you give me that handkerchief. He gave it to me, not to you.
Yes, he did. I think it must be regarded as her property, Mrs. Pierce.
Oh, serve you right, Mr. Higgins.
Higgins, I'm interested. What about the ambassador's garden party? I'll say you're the greatest teacher alive if you can make that good. I'll bet you all the expenses of the experiment you cannot do it. And I'll pay for the lessons.
Oh, you are real good, thank you, Captain.
It's almost irresistible. She's so deliciously low, so horribly dirty.
I ain't dirty. I washed my face and hand before I come, I did.
Well, you're certainly not going to turn her head with flattery, Higgins.
Oh, don't say that, sir. There's more ways than one of turning a girl's head, and nobody can do it better than Mr. Higgins, though he may not always mean it. I do hope, sir, you won't encourage him to do anything foolish.
What is life but a series of inspired follies, eh? The difficulty is to find them to do. Never lose a chance. Doesn't come every day. I shall make a duchess of this draggle-tailed guttersnipe. Yes, in 6 months. In 3, if she's a good ear and a quick tongue, I'll take her anywhere and pass her off as anything. We'll start today. Now, this moment. Take her away and clean her, Mrs. Pierce. Scrub her with a broom if it won't come off any other way. Is there a good fire in the kitchen?
Yes, but...
Take off all her clothes and burn them. Ring up Whiteley or somebody for new clothes. Wrap her in brown paper till they come.
You're no gentleman, you're not, to talk of such things. I'm a good girl, I am, and I know what the like of you are, I do.
We want none of your Listen Grove prudery here, young woman. You've got to learn to behave like a duchess. Take her away, Mrs. Pierce. She gives you any trouble, wallop her.
No, I'll call the police, I will.
Oh, but I've no place to put her.
Oh, put her in the dustbin.
Oh, come, Higgins, be reasonable.
Yeah, you must be reasonable, Mr. Higgins, really, you must. You can't walk over everybody like this.
I walk over everybody. My dear Mrs. Pierce, my dear Pickering, I never had the slightest intention of walking over anyone. All I propose is that we should be kind to this poor girl. We must help her to prepare and fit herself for her new station in life. If I did not express myself clearly, it was because I did not wish to hurt her delicacy or yours.
Well, did you ever hear anything like that, sir?
Never Mrs. Pierce, never.
What's the matter?
Well, the matter is, sir, that you can't take up a girl like that as if you were picking up a pebble on the beach.
Why not?
Why not? But you don't know anything about her. What about her parents? She may be married.
Dan!
There's the girl very properly says. God! Married indeed. Don't you know that a woman of that class looks a worn-out drudge of 50 years after she's married?
He'd marry me!
Oh, by George, Eliza, the streets will be strewn with the bodies of men shooting themselves for your sake before I'm done with you.
Nonsense, sir. You mustn't talk like that to her.
I'm going away. He's off his chump, he is. I don't want no barmies teaching me.
Oh, indeed. I'm mad, am I? Very well, Mrs. Pierce. You needn't order the new clothes for her. Throw her out.
No! You got no right to touch me!
Oh, you see now what becomes of being saucy. Oh, this way, please.
I didn't want no clothes. I wouldn't have taken them. I can buy my own clothes.
Yeah, you're an ungrateful, wicked girl. This is my return for offering to take you out of the gutter and dress you beautifully and make a lady of you.
Oh, stop, Mr. Higgins. I won't allow it. It's you that are wicked. Oh, go home to your parents, girl, and tell them to take better care of you.
I ain't got no parents. They told me I was big enough to earn me own living and turn me out.
Oh, where's your mother?
I ain't got no mother. Her that turned me out was my sick stepmother, but I done without 'em. And I'm a good girl, I am.
Very well, then. What on earth is all this fuss about? The girl doesn't belong to anybody. It's no use to anybody but me. You can adopt her, Mrs. Pierce. I'm sure a daughter would be a great amusement to you. Now, don't make any more fuss. Take her downstairs and be made.
What's to become of her? I mean, is she to be paid anything? Oh, do be sensible, sir.
Pay her whatever is necessary. Put it down in the housekeeping book. What on earth will she want with money? She'll have food and clothes. She'll only drink if you give her money.
Oh, you are a brute. It's a lie. Nobody ever saw the sign and lick it on me.
Did it occur to you, Higgins, that the girl has some feelings?
No, I don't think so. Not any feelings that we need bother about. Have you, Eliza?
I got my feelings same as anyone else.
Pick, you see the difficulty.
What difficulty?
Well, to get her to talk grammar. The mere pronunciation is easy enough.
I don't want to talk grammar. I want to talk like a lady.
Oh, will you please keep to the point, Mr. Higgins? I want to know on what terms the girl is to be here. Is she to have any wages? And what is to become of her when you've finished your teaching? I mean, you must look ahead a little.
What's to become of her if I leave her in the gutter? Tell me that, Mrs. Pierce.
That's her own business, not yours, Mr. Higgins.
Well, when I've done with her, we can throw her back into the gutter and then it will be her own business again. So that's all right.
Oh, you've got no feeling art in you. You don't care for nothing but yourself. Here, I've had enough of this. I'm going. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You ought.
Have some chocolates, Eliza. Yeah?
How do I know what might be in them? I've heard of girls being drugged by the like of you.
Well, pledge of good faith, Eliza. I can eat one half, you can eat the other. You know? You shall have boxes of them, Eliza. Barrels of them every day. You shall live on them, eh?
I wouldn't have ate it, only I'm too ladylike to take it out of my mouth.
Listen, Eliza, I think you said you came in a taxi, yeah?
Well, what have I did? I've got a right to take a taxi as anyone else.
Well, you have, Eliza, and in future you shall have as many taxis as you want. You shall go up and down and round the town in a taxi every day. Think of that, Eliza.
Mr. Higgins, you're tempting the girl. It's not right. She should think of the future.
At her age? Oh, nonsense. Time enough to think of the future when you haven't any future to think of. No, Eliza, do as this lady does. Think of other people's futures, but never think of your own. Think of chocolates and taxis and gold and diamonds.
No, I don't want no gold and no diamonds. I'm a good girl, I am.
But you shall remain so, Eliza, under the care of Mrs. Pierce, and you shall marry an officer in the Guards with a beautiful moustache, the son of a marquis, who will disinherit him from marrying you, but will relent when he sees your beauty and goodness.
Excuse me, Higgins, but I really must interfere. Mrs. Pierce is quite right. If this girl is to put herself in your hands for 6 months for an experiment in teaching, she must understand thoroughly what she's doing.
But how can she? She's incapable of understanding anything. Besides, do any of us understand what we are doing?
Very clever.
Do we ever do it, Pick?
In fact, it's clever, but it makes no sound sense. Miss Doolittle.
There. That's all you'll get out of Eliza. No use explaining. As a military man, you ought to know that, Pickering. Give her orders. That's what she wants. Eliza, you are to live here for the next 6 months learning how to speak beautifully, like a lady in a florist shop. If you're good and do whatever you're told, you shall sleep in a proper bedroom, have lots to eat, money to buy chocolates and take rides in taxis. If you're naughty and idle, you will sleep in the back kitchen among the black beetles and be walloped by Mrs. Pierce for the broomstick. And at the end of 6 months, you shall go to Buckingham Palace in a carriage, beautifully dressed. If the king finds out you're not a lady, you'll be taken by the police to the Tower of London, where your head will be cut off. It's a warning to other presumptuous flower girls. If you're not found out, you shall have a present of 7 sixpence to start life with a lady in the shop. If you refuse this offer, you'll be the most ungrateful and wicked girl, and the angels will weep for you. Now, are you satisfied, Pickering? And can I put it more plainly and fairly, Mrs. Pierce?
I think you'd better let me speak to the girl properly in private. I don't know that I can take charge of her or consent to the arrangement at all. Of course, I know you don't mean her any harm, but when you get what you call interested in people's accents, you never think or care what may happen to them or you. Oh, come with me, Eliza.
Yes, well, that's all right. Thank you, Mrs. Pierce. Bundle her off to the bathroom.
Oh, you're a great bully, you are. I won't stay here if I don't like, and I won't let nobody wallop me. I never asked to go to Buckingham Palace. I was never in trouble with the police. Not me. I'm a good girl.
No, don't answer back, girl. You don't understand the gentleman. Come with me.
Oh, what I say is right. I won't go near the king. Not if I'm only going to have my head cut off. If I'd known what I was getting myself in for, I wouldn't have come here. Oh, I've always been a good girl and I never offended to say a word to him. And I owe him nothing and I don't care and I won't be put upon. I have more feelings the same as anyone else.
Excuse the straight question, Higgins. Are you a man of good character where women are concerned?
Have you ever met a man of good character where women are concerned?
Very frequently.
Yes, well, I haven't. I find that the moment I let a woman make friends with me, she becomes jealous, exacting, suspicious, and a damn nuisance. I find that the moment I let myself make friends with a woman, I become selfish and tyrannical. Women upset everything. When you let them into your life, you find that the woman is driving at one thing and you're driving at another.
At what, for example?
Lord knows. I suppose a woman wants to live her own life and the man wants to live his, and each tries to drag the other onto the wrong track. One wants to go north, the other south, and as a result, they both have to go east, even though they both hate the east wind. So here I am, a confirmed bachelor, likely to remain so.
Come, Higgins, you know what I mean. Now, if I'm to be in this business, I shall feel responsible for that girl. I hope it's understood that no advantage is to be taken of her position.
What? That's it? Oh, sacred, I assure you. You see, she's a pupil. As teaching would be impossible unless pupils were sacred. I've taught scores of American millionairesses how to speak English, the best looking women in the world. I'm seasoned. They might as well be blocks of wood. I might as well be a block of wood. It's exactly as it... Oh. Well, Mrs. Pierce, is it all right?
I just wish to trouble you with a word, if I may, Mr. Higgins.
Oh, yes, certainly. Come in. Oh, don't burn that. Thank you. Yes. Oh, I'll keep that as a curiosity.
Handle it carefully, sir, please. I had to promise her not to burn it, but I had better put it in the oven for a while.
Oh, thank you, yes. Now, what would you speak with me about?
Am I in the way?
Oh, not at all, sir. Mr. Higgins, will you please be very particular what you say before the girl?
Of course, I'm always particular about what I say. Why do you say this to me?
No, sir. You're not at all particular when you've mislaid anything or when you get a little impatient. Now, it doesn't matter before me, I'm used to it, but you really must not swear before the girl.
I swear? I never swear. I detest the habit. What the devil do you mean?
That's what I mean, sir. You swear a great deal too much. I don't mind your damning and blasting and what the devil and where the devil and who the devil.
But really, Mrs. Pierce, this language from your lips.
But there is a certain word I must ask you not to use. The girl has just used it herself because the bath was too hot. It begins with the same letter as bath. She knows no better. She learnt it at her mother's knee. But she must not hear it from your lips.
I cannot charge myself with ever having uttered it, Mrs. Pierce. Well, except perhaps in a moment of extreme and justifiable excitement.
Only this morning, sir, you applied it to your boots, to the butter, and to the brown bread.
Oh, that. Oh, mere alliteration, Mrs. Pierce, natural to a poet.
Well, sir, whatever you choose to call it, I beg you not to let the girl hear you repeat it.
Oh, very well, very well. Is that all?
No, sir. We shall have to be very particular with this girl as to personal cleanliness.
Oh, certainly, quite right. Most important.
I mean, not to be slovenly about her dress or untidy in leaving things about.
Just so. I intended to call your attention to that. It's these little things that matter, Pickering, yes? Take care of the pence and the pounds will take care of themselves. It's as true of personal habits as it is of money.
Yes, sir. Then, might I ask you not to come down to breakfast in your dressing gown? Or at any rate, not to use it as a napkin to the extent you do, sir? And if you would be so good as to not eat everything off the same plate, and to remember not to put the porridge saucepan out of your hand on the clean tablecloth. It would be a better example to the girl. You know you nearly choked yourself with a fishbone in the jam only last week.
I may do these things sometimes in the absence of mind, but surely I don't do them habitually. By the way, my dressing gown smells most damnably of benzene.
No doubt it does, Mr. Higgins. But if you will wipe your fingers...
Oh, very well, very well, very well. I'll wipe them in my hair in future.
I hope you're not offended, Mr. Higgins.
Oh, not at all, not at all. You're quite right, Mrs. Pierce. I shall be particularly careful before the girl. Is that all?
No, sir. Might she use some of those Japanese dresses you brought from abroad? I really can't put her back into her old things.
Oh, certainly. Anything you like. Is that all?
Thank you, sir. That's all.
You know, Pickering, that woman has the most extraordinary ideas about me. Here I am, a shy, diffident sort of man. I've never been able to feel really grown up and tremendous like other chaps, and yet she's firmly persuaded that I'm an arbitrary, overbearing, bossing kind of person. I can't account for it.
Oh, if you please, sir, the trouble's beginning already. There's a dustman downstairs. Alfred Doolittle wants to see you. He says you have his daughter here.
Phew, I say.
Send the blackguard up.
Oh, very well, sir.
He may not be a blackguard, Higgins.
Oh, nonsense. Of course he's a blackguard.
Oh, well, whether he is or not, I'm afraid we shall have some trouble with him.
Oh, no, I think not. If there's any trouble, he shall have it with me, not I with him. We're sure to get something interesting out of him.
About the girl?
No, I mean his dialect.
Oh.
Doolittle, sir.
Professor Higgins?
Here. Good morning.
What?
Sit down.
Morning, Governor. I come about a very serious matter, Governor.
Pickering. Brought up in Hounslow. Mother Welsh, I should think. Yes. What do you want, Doolittle?
I want my daughter. That's what I want to see.
Oh, well, of course you do. You're her father, aren't you? You don't suppose anyone else wants her, do you? Glad to see you have some spark of family feeling left. She's upstairs. Take her away at once.
What?
Oh, take her away. Do you suppose I'm going to keep your daughter for you?
No. Look here, Governor. Is this reasonable? Is it fair to take advantage of a man like this? Well, the girl belongs to me. You got her. Where do I come in?
Your daughter had the audacity to come to me, to my house, and ask me to teach her how to speak properly so that she could get a place in a flower shop. This gentleman and my housekeeper have been here all the time. How dare you come here and attempt to blackmail me? You sent her here on purpose.
No, Governor.
Oh, you must have. How else could you possibly know that she's here?
Don't take a man up like that, Governor.
The police shall take you up. This is a plant, a plot to extort money by threats. I shall telephone for the police.
Have I asked you for a brass farthing? Huh? I'll leave it to the gentleman here. Have I said a word about money?
What else did you come for?
Well, what would a man come for? Be human, Governor.
Alfred, did you put her up to it?
Oh, so help me, Governor, I never did. I'll take my Bible oath. I ain't seen the girl these 2 months past.
Then how did you know she was here?
Oh, I told you, Governor, if you'll only let me get a word in. I'm willing to tell you. I'm waiting to tell you. I'm wanting to tell you.
Pickering, this chap has a certain natural gift of rhetoric. Observe the rhythm of his native wood notes, Wild. I'm willing to tell you. I'm wanting to tell you. I'm waiting to tell. Sentimental rhetoric. That's the Welsh strain in him. Yes? It also accounts for his mendacity and dishonesty.
Oh, please, Higgins. I'm West Country myself. Doolittle, how did you know the girl was here if you didn't send her?
Oh, it was like this, Governor. The girl took a boy in the taxi to give him a jaunt. Son of a landlady he is. He hung about on the chance of her giving him another ride home. Well, she sent him back for her luggage when she heard you was willing for her to stop here. I met the boy at the corner of Longacre and Endell Street.
Public house, yes?
Well, the Poor Man's Club, Governor. Why shouldn't I?
Let him tell his story, Higgins.
Yeah, well, he told me what was up, and I asked you, what was my feelings and my duty as a father? I says to the boy, you bring me the luggage, I says.
Yeah, but why didn't you go for it yourself?
You know, landlady wouldn't have trusted me with it, Governor. She's that kind of woman, you know. I had to give the boy a penny before he trusted me with it, the little swine. I brought it here just to oblige you like and make myself agreeable. That's all.
How much luggage?
Musical instrument, Governor, a few pictures, a trifle of jewellery, and a bird cage. She said she didn't want no clothes. What was I to think from that, Governor? I asked you, as a parent, what was I to think?
Oh, so you came to rescue her from a fate worse than death, eh?
Just so, Governor. That's right.
But why did you bring her luggage if you intended to take her away?
Have I said a word about taking her away? Have I now?
You're going to take her away. Double quick.
Governor, don't say that. I'm not the man to stand in my girl's light. Well, here's a career opening for her, as you might say, and...
Yes?
Mrs. Pierce, this is Liza's father. He's come to take her away. Give her to him.
No, there is a misunderstanding. Listen here.
He can't take her away, Mr. Higgins. How can he? You told me to burn her clothes.
That's right. I can't carry the girl through the streets like a blooming monkey, can I? I'll put it to you.
Well, you have put it to me that you want your daughter. Take your daughter. If she has no clothes, go out and buy her some.
Where's the clothes she come in? Did I burn them, or did your missus here?
I am the housekeeper, if you please. I have sent for some clothes for your girl. When they come, you can take her away. You can wait in the kitchen. This way, please.
Listen here, Governor. Now, you and me, yeah, is men of the world, ain't we?
Oh, men of the world, are we? Oh, you'd better go, Mrs. Pierce.
Oh, I think so indeed, sir.
The floor is yours, Mr. Doolittle.
I thank you, Governor. Well, truth is, I've taken a sort of fancy to you, Governor. And if you want the girl, I'm not so set on having her back home anytime soon. But I am open to an arrangement. Regarding in the light of a young woman, and she's a fine, handsome girl. As a daughter, she's not worth a keep. And so I tell you straight, all I ask is my rights as a father. And you're the last man alive to expect me to let her go for nothing. For I can see you're one of the straight sort, Governor. Yeah, well, what's a £5 note to you? And what's Eliza to me?
Oh, I think you ought to know, Doolittle, that Mr. Higgins's intentions are entirely honourable.
Of course they are, Governor. I thought they were. Well, if I thought they wasn't, I would have asked 50.
You mean to say, you callous rascal, that you would sell your daughter for £50?
Not in a general way, I wouldn't. But to oblige a gentleman like you, I'd do a good deal, I do assure you.
Have you no morals, man?
I can't afford them, Governor. Neither could you if you was as poor as me. Not that I mean any harm, you know, but Liza's going to have a bit of this. Why not me too?
I don't know what to do, Pickering. There can be no question that it's a matter of morals. It's a positive crime to give this chap a farthing. And yet I feel a sort of rough justice in his claim.
That's it, Governor. That's all I say. A father's heart, as it were.
Well, I know the feeling, but really it seems hardly right.
Oh, don't say that, Governor. Don't look at it that way. What am I, governors both? Huh? I ask you, what am I? I am one of the undeserving poor. That's what I am. Think of what it means to a man. It means that he's up against middle-class morality all the time. If there's anything going, and I put in for a bit of it, it's always the same story. You're undeserving, so you can't have it. But my needs is as great as the most deserving widow that ever got money out of 6 different charities in 1 week for the death of the same husband. I don't need less than a deserving man. I need more. I don't eat less hearty than him, and I drink a lot more. I want a bit of amusement because I'm a thinking man. I want cheerfulness and a song and a band when I feel low. Well, they charge me just the same for everything as they charge the deserving. What is middle-class morality? Just an excuse for never giving me anything. Therefore, I ask you, as 2 gentlemen, not to play that game on me. I'm playing straight with you. I ain't pretending to be deserving. I'm undeserving. And I mean to go on being undeserving. I like it. And that's the truth. Will you take advantage of a man's nature to do him out of the price of his own daughter, what he's brought up and fed and clothed by the sweat of his brow until, well, she's grown big enough to be interesting to you 2 gentlemen? Is £5 unreasonable? I put it to you. I'll leave it to you.
Pickering, if we were to take this man in hand for 3 months, he could choose between a seat in cabinet and a popular pulpit in Wales.
What do you say to that, Doolittle?
Not me, Governor. Well, thank you kindly. I mean, I've heard all the preachers and all the prime ministers, for I'm a thinking man and game for politics or religion or social reform, same as all the other amusements. And I'll tell you, it's a dog's life any way you look at it. Undeserving poverty is my line, taking one station in society with another. It's well, that's the only thing that has any ginger in it, to my taste.
Suppose we must give him a fiver then.
Oh, well, he'll make bad use of it, I'm afraid.
Not me, Governor. So help me, I won't. Don't you be afraid that I'll save it, spare it, and live idle on it. There won't be a penny of it left by Monday. I'll have to go to work, same as if I'd never had it in the first place. It won't pauperise me, you bet. Just one good spree for myself and the missus, giving pleasure to ourselves and employment to others, and the satisfaction to you to think it's not been thrown away. You couldn't have spent it better.
Ah, this is irresistible. Let's give him 10.
Oh, no, Governor. She wouldn't have the art to spend 10, and perhaps I shouldn't neither. £10 is a lot of money. It makes a man feel prudent-like, and then goodbye happiness. You give me what I asked for, Governor. Not a penny more, not a penny less.
Why don't you marry that missus of yours? I'd rather draw the line at encouraging that sort of immorality.
Tell her so, Governor. Tell her so. I'm willing. It's me that suffers by it. I've no hold on her. I've got to be agreeable to her. I've got to give her presents. I've got to buy her clothes, something sinful. I'm a slave to that woman, Governor, just because I'm not a lawful husband, and she knows it. Catch her marrying me. Take my advice, Governor. Marry Eliza while she's young and don't know any better. Well, if you don't, you'll be sorry for it after. If you do, she'll be sorry for it after. But better you than her, because you're a man and she's only a woman and she don't know how to be happy anyhow.
Figuring if we listen to this man another minute, we shall have no convictions left. £5, I think you said.
That you kindly, Governor. Yes, that's it, yeah.
You sure you won't take 10?
Not now. Another time, Governor.
There you are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Governor. God, good morning. Oh, beg your pardon, miss.
Jan, don't you know your own daughter?
Look at that. What's that?
Don't I look silly?
Silly?
Now, Mr. Higgins, please don't say anything to make the girl conceited about herself.
Oh, quite right, Mrs. Pierce, yes. Yes, damn silly.
Oh, please, sir.
Oh, I mean, extremely silly.
Or I should look all right with my hat on.
Oh, it's a new fashion, by George. And it ought to look horrible.
Well, I never thought she'd clean up as good looking as that, Governor. Oh, she's a credit to me, ain't she?
Oh, I tell you, it's easy to clean up here. Hot and cold water on tap, just as much as you like there is. Woolly towels there is, and a towel also hot, it burns your fingers. Soft brushes to scrub yourself, and a wooden bowl of soap smelling like primroses. Now I know why ladies are so clean. Washing's a treat for 'em. Wish they saw what it was like for the likes of me.
Glad the bathroom met with your approval.
Oh, it didn't. Not all of it. And I don't care who hears me say it. Mrs. Pierce knows.
What was wrong, Mrs. Pierce?
Oh, nothing, sir. It doesn't matter.
I had a good mind to break it. I didn't know which way to look, but I hung a towel over it, I did.
Over what?
Over the looking glass, sir.
Oh, Doolittle, you have brought your daughter up too strictly.
Me? I never brought her up at all, except to give her a lick of the strap every now and again. Don't put that on me, Governor. She ain't accustomed to it, you see. That's all, but she'll soon pick up on your free and easy ways.
No, I'm a good girl, I am, and I won't pick up no free and easy ways.
Eliza, if you say again that you're a good girl, your father shall take you home.
Not him. You don't know my father. All he come for was to touch you for some money to get drunk on.
Well, what else would I want money for? To put on the plate in church, I suppose. And don't you give me none of your lip. And don't let me hear you giving this gentleman any of it neither. Or you'll hear from me about it, see?
Have you any further advice to give her before you go, Doolittle? Your blessing, for instance.
No. I ain't such a mug as to put up my children to all I know myself. Hard enough to hold them in without that. If you want Liza's mind improved, Governor, well, you do it yourself with a strap. So long, gentlemen.
Stop. You'll come regularly to see your daughter. It's your duty, you know. My brother's a clergyman, and he could help you with your talks with her.
Certainly I'll come, Governor, just not this week, because I have a job at a distance, but later on you may depend on me. Afternoon, gentlemen. Afternoon, ma'am.
Don't you believe the old liar? He'd as soon you set a bulldog on him as a clergyman. You won't see him again in a hurry.
I don't want to, Eliza. Do you?
Not me. I don't want to never see him again, I don't. He's a disgrace to me, he is, collecting dust instead of working at his trade.
What is his trade, Eliza?
Talking money out of other people's pockets into his own. His proper trade's a navvy, and he works at it sometimes too, for exercise, and earns good money at it. Ain't you going to call me Miss Doolittle anymore?
I beg your pardon, Miss Doolittle. It was a slip of the tongue.
Oh, I don't mind. Only it sounded so genteel. I should like to take a taxi to the corner of Tottenham Court Road and get out there and tell it to wait for me, just to put the girls in their place a bit. I wouldn't speak to them, you know.
Better wait till you get something really fashionable.
Yes, besides, you shouldn't cut your old friends now that you've risen in the world. That's what we call snobbery.
Oh, you don't call the likes of them my friends now, I should hope. They've took it out of me often enough with their ridicule when they had the chance, and now I mean to get a bit of my own back. But if I'm to have fashionable clothes, oh wait, I should like to have some. Mrs. Pierce says you're going to give me something to wear at bed at night time, different to what I wear in the daytime. But it do seem a waste of money when you could just get something to show. Besides, I never could fancy changing into cold things on a winter's night.
Now, Eliza, the new things have come for you to try on. Don't rush about like that, girl.
Pickering, we have taken on a stiff job.
Higgins, we have.
Indeed you have, sirs, indeed you have. But by no means unconquerable, as we shall see later in my play. Your patience will be rewarded yet, and for the encouragement of people in the audience who might likewise be troubled with appalling accents that cut them off from all high employment, I may add that the change that will be wrought by Professor Higgins in the Flower Girl is neither impossible nor uncommon.
But the thing has to be done scientifically.
Indeed. An honest and natural slum dialect. It's more terrible than the attempt of a phonetically untaught person to imitate the vulgar dialect of the Guelph Club. I am sorry to say that in spite of the efforts of our Academy of Dramatic Art, there is still too much sham golfing English on our stage, and too little of the charm and variable noble English of Forbes Robertson.
Are you quite finished, Mr. Shaw?
Oh, no. I'm just getting started.
I am the director, Mr. Shaw. This play is my responsibility. You can't just completely take over like this.
Well, I'm sorry to say that you're not much of a director, madam. A director will be a benevolent dictator, not some wishy-washy person who doesn't really know what they want. Now, I, on the other hand, am a good example of a benevolent dictator. You see, the actors need proper leadership. And like the majority of the human race, the great majority are easygoing, sensible people. And left to themselves, they look round for somebody who looks intelligent. And they say, tell us what to do. That's what they always do when they see me. Act 3.
It is Mrs. Higgins's at-home day. Nobody has yet arrived. Her drawing room, in a flat on Chelsea Embankment, has 3 windows looking on the river, and the ceiling is not so lofty as it would be in an older house of the same pretension.
Excuse me, Mr. Shaw. We're used to performing this whole scene on the Ascot set. You can't just go changing things like that. The whole cast is ready for the races. They're all in position for the Ascot Gavotte number. This is the wardrobe department's big moment. You can't just get rid of Ascot.
Well, I'm terribly sorry, Madam Director, but that entire scene is a frippery addition of Mr. Lerner and Mr. Lowe, and was not part of my original play at all. The cast will do very well if most of the chorus disappear to the green room and spend the rest of the day drinking and playing at cards, which I'm sure most of them would rather do anyway, and the rest to make up some supernumeraries in the background of Mrs. Higgins's tea party. My play, madam. This is my play. Mrs. Higgins was brought up on Morris and Burne-Jones, and her room, which is very unlike her son's room in Wimpole Street, is not crowded with furniture and little tables and knick-knacks. There is a portrait of Mrs. Higgins as she was when she defied fashion in her youth, in one of those beautiful Rossettian costumes in the athletic style.
In the corner diagonally opposite the door, Mrs. Higgins, now over 60 and long past taking the trouble to dress out of the fashion, sits writing at an elegantly simple writing table with a bell button within reach of her hand. It is between 4 and 5 in the afternoon.
Henry, what are you doing here today? It is my at-home day. You promised not to come.
Oh, bother.
Go home at once.
I know, Mother, but I came on purpose.
But you mustn't. I'm serious, Henry. You offend all my friends. They stop coming whenever they meet you.
Oh, nonsense. I know I have no small talk, but people don't mind.
Oh, don't they? Small talk, indeed. What about your large talk? Really, dear, you mustn't stay.
Oh, I'm asked. I have a job for you, a phonetic job.
Oh, no use, dear. I'm sorry, but I can't get around your vowels. And though I like to get pretty postcards in your patent shorthand, I always have to read the copies in ordinary writing you so thoughtfully send me.
Well, this isn't a phonetic job.
You said it was.
Well, not on your part. I've picked up a girl, you see.
Does this mean some girl has picked you up?
No, not at all. I don't mean a love affair.
Oh, what a pity.
Why?
Well, you never fall in love with anyone under 45. When will you discover there are some rather nice-looking young women about?
Can't be bothered with young women. My idea of a lovable woman is something that was like you, responsible. I shall never get into the way of seriously liking young women. Some habits lie too deep to be changed. Besides, they're all idiots.
Do you know what you would do if you really loved me, Henry?
Bother. What? Marry, I suppose?
No, stop fidgeting and take your hands out of your pockets. That's a good boy. Now tell me about the girl.
Well, she's coming to see you.
I don't remember asking her.
No, you didn't. I asked her. If you'd have known her, you wouldn't have asked her.
Indeed? Why?
Well, it's like this. She's a common flower girl. I picked her off the curbstone.
And invited her to my at-home?
Well, yes, it'll be all right. I've taught her to speak properly. Yes? She has strict orders as to her behaviour. She's to keep to 2 subjects, the weather and everybody's health. Fine day and how do you do, not let herself go on to things in general. That'll be safe.
Safe?
Yes.
Talk about our health, to talk about our insides, perhaps about our outsides. How could you be so silly, Henry?
Well, she must talk about something. She'll be all right. Don't you fuss, yes? Pickering is in it with me. I sort of made a bet that I'll pass her off as a duchess inside 6 months. I started on her some months ago, and she's getting on like a house on fire. I shall win my bet. She's a quick ear. She's been easier to teach than my middle-class pupils because she's had to learn a complete new language. She talks English almost as you talk French.
Well, that's satisfactory at all events.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't.
What do you mean?
Well, you see, I've got a pronunciation, all right, but you have to consider not only how a girl pronounces, but what she pronounces, and that is O.
Mr. and Mrs. Eynsford Hill,
Oh, Lord. Oh, no. Shaw again.
Mr. Shaw.
Mr. and Mrs. Ainsford Hill are the mother and daughter who sheltered from the rain in Covent Garden at the beginning of our play. Mr. Ainsford Hill is well-bred, quiet, and has the habitual anxiety of straitened means. Clara has acquired a gay air of being very much at home in society, the bravado of genteel poverty.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. How do you do?
How do you do?
My son, Henry.
Your celebrated son? I have so longed to meet you, Professor Higgins.
Yes, delighted.
How do you do?
Oh, I've seen you somewhere before. Haven't the ghost of a notion where, but I've heard your voice. Doesn't matter. You'd better sit down.
I'm sorry to say that my celebrated son has no manners. You mustn't mind him.
I don't.
Not at all.
Have I been rude? Didn't mean to be.
Colonel Pickering.
Oh.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins?
So glad you've come. Do you know Miss Ainsford Hill and Mrs. Ainsford Hill?
Has Henry told you what we've come for?
We were interrupted, damn it.
Oh, Henry. Henry, really?
Are we in the way?
No. You couldn't have come more fortunately. We want you to meet a friend of ours.
Oh, yes, by George. We want 2 or 3 people. You'll do as well as anybody else.
Mr. Ainsford Hill.
God of heaven, another of them.
How do you do?
How do you do? I don't think you know my son, Professor Higgins.
How do you do?
I'll take my oath I've met you somewhere before too. Where was it?
I don't think so.
Well, it doesn't matter anyhow. Sit down. Well, here we are anyhow. And now what the devil are we going to talk about till Eliza comes, huh?
Oh, Henry, you are the life and soul of the Royal Society soirees, but really you are more trying on commonplace occasions.
Am I? Very sorry. Oh, I suppose I am, you know.
I sympathise. I haven't any small talk. If people would only be frank and say what they really think.
Lord forbid.
But why?
Well, what they think they ought to think is bad enough, Lord knows. But what they really think would break up the whole show. Do you suppose it would be really agreeable if I were to come out now with what I really think?
Is it so very cynical?
Cynical? Who the dickens said it was cynical? I mean, it wouldn't be decent.
Oh, I'm sure you don't mean that, Mr. Higgins.
Oh, you see, we're all savages, more or less. We're supposed to be civilized and cultured, you know, to know all about poetry and philosophy and art and science and so on. But how many of us know even the meanings of those names? Young lady, what do you know of poetry? Madam, what do you know of science? And young man, what does he know of art or science or anything else? What the devil do you imagine I know of philosophy?
Or of manners, Henry?
Miss Doolittle.
Here she is, Mother.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins? Mr. Higgins told me I might come.
Quite right. I'm very glad indeed to see you.
How do you do, Miss Doolittle?
Colonel Pickering, is it not?
I feel sure we have met before, Miss Doolittle. I remember your eyes.
How do you do?
My daughter, Clara.
How do you do?
How do you do?
I've certainly had the pleasure.
My son, Freddie.
How do you do?
Oh, by George, yes, it all comes back to me. Covent Garden! And what a damned thing!
Henry, please.
Sorry.
Don't sit on my writing table. You'll break it. Will it rain, do you think?
The shallow depression in the west of these islands is likely to move slowly in an easterly direction. There are no indications of any great change in the barometrical situation.
How awfully funny.
What is wrong with that, young man? I bet I got it right.
Killing.
I'm sure I hope it won't turn cold. There's so much influenza about. It runs right through our whole family regularly every spring.
My aunt died of influenza, so they said. But it is my belief that they done the old woman in.
Done her in?
Yes, Lord love you. Why should she die of influenza? She's come through diphtheria right enough the year before. I saw her with my own eyes. Fairly blue with it, she was. They all thought she was dead, but my father kept ladling gin down her throat till she came to so sudden that she picked the bowl off the spoon.
Dear me.
What call would a woman with that strength in her have to die of influenza? What became of her new straw hat that should have come to me? Somebody pinched it, and what I say is, them as pinched it as done her in.
What does doing her in mean?
That's the new small talk. To do a person in means to kill them. Yeah.
You surely don't believe that your aunt was killed?
Do I not? Them she lived with would have killed her for a hat pin, let alone a hat.
But it can't have been right for your father to pour spirits down her throat like that. It might have killed her.
Not her. Gin was mother's milk to her. Besides, he'd poured so much down his own throat that he knew the good of it.
Do you mean that he drank?
Drank, my word, something chronic.
How dreadful for you.
Oh, not a bit. It never did him no harm, what I could see. But then he did not keep it up regular. On the burst, as you might say, from time to time, and always more agreeable when he had a drop in. When he was out of work, my mother used to give him 4pence and tell him to go out and not to come back until he'd drunk himself cheerful and loving-like. There's lots of women that make their husbands drunk to make them fit to live with. You see, it's like this. If a man has a bit of a conscience, it always takes him when he's sober and then makes him low-spirited. A drop of booze just takes that off and makes him happy. Here, what are you sniggering at?
The new small talk. You do it so awfully well.
If I was doing it proper, what was you laughing at? Have I said anything I oughtn't?
Not at all, Miss Doolittle.
What I always... Oh, well, that is a mercy. And as I say,
Eliza.
I must go. So pleased to have met you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Colonel Pickering.
Oh, goodbye, Miss Doolittle.
Goodbye, all.
Are you walking across the park, Miss Doolittle? If so, I would love...
Walk? Not bloody likely. I am going in a taxi.
Well, I really can't get used to the new ways.
Oh, it's all right, Mama, quite right. People will think we never go anywhere or see anybody if you are so old-fashioned.
I dare say I am very old-fashioned, but I do hope you won't begin using that expression, Clara. I have got accustomed to hear you talking about men as rotters and calling everything filthy and beastly, though I do think it horrible and unladylike. But this last is really too much. Don't you think so, Colonel Pickering?
Well, don't ask me. I've been away in India for several years. Manners have changed so much that sometimes I don't know whether I'm at a respectable dinner or at a ship's forecastle.
It's all a matter of habit. There's no right or wrong in it. Nobody means anything by it. And it's so quaint. And it gives such a smart emphasis to things that are not in themselves very witty. I find the new small talk delightful and quite innocent.
Well, after all that, I think it's time for us to go.
Oh, yes. We still have 3 at-homes to go to. Goodbye, Mrs. Higgins. Goodbye, Colonel Pickering. Goodbye, Professor Higgins.
Goodbye. Be sure you try on that small talk at the 3 at-homes. Don't be nervous about it. Pitch it strong.
Oh, I will. Such nonsense, all this Victorian prudery.
Such damned nonsense.
Such bloody nonsense. Clara!
Well, I ask you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Would you like to see Miss Higgins again?
Oh, yes, I should, most awfully.
Well, you know my days.
Yes, thanks awfully. Goodbye.
Goodbye, Mr. Higgins.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
It's no use. I shall never be able to bring myself to use that word.
Oh, don't. It's not compulsory, you know. You'll get on quite well without it.
Oh, only Clara is so down on me if I'm not positively reeking with the latest thing. Goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
You mustn't mind Clara. We're so poor and she gets to so few parties. Poor child. She doesn't quite know. But the boy is nice, don't you think?
Oh, quite nice. I shall always be delighted to see him.
Well, thank you, dear. Goodbye.
Well, is Eliza presentable? Yes?
You silly boy, of course she's not presentable. She's a triumph of your art and of her dressmakers. But if you suppose for a moment that she doesn't give herself away in every sentence she utters, you must be perfectly cracked about her.
Yes, but don't you think something might be done? I mean, something to eliminate the sanguinary element from her conversation.
Not as long as she is in Henry's hands.
Oh, do you mean that my language is improper?
No, dearest, it would be quite proper. Say on a canal barge, but it would not be proper for her at a garden party.
Well, I must
Oh, come on, Higgins. You must learn to know yourself. I haven't heard such language as yours since we used to review the volunteers in Hyde Park 20 years ago.
Oh, well, if you must say so, I suppose I don't always talk like a bishop.
Colonel Pickering, will you tell me what is the exact state of things at Wimpole Street?
Well, I've come to live there with Henry. We work together at Indian dialects and we think it more convenient.
Well, quite so. I know all about that, and it's an excellent arrangement. But where does this girl live?
Well, with us, of course. Where would she live?
But on what terms? Is she a servant? If not, what is she?
Oh, I think I know what you mean, Mrs. Higgins.
Well, dash me if I do. I've had to work with the girl every day for months to get her to her present pitch. Besides, she's useful. She knows where my things are and remembers my appointments and so forth.
How does your housekeeper get on with her?
Mrs. Pierce. Oh, she's jolly glad to get so much taken off her hands. For before Eliza came, she had to find things for me and remind me of my appointments. But she has got some silly bee in her bonnet at the moment about Eliza. She keeps saying, "You don't think, sir?" Doesn't she, Pig?
Yes, that's the formula. Yes, you don't think so, sir. And that's the end of every conversation about Eliza.
As if I ever stop thinking about the girl and her confounded vowels and consonants. I'm worn out thinking about her and watching her lips and teeth and her tongue, not to mention her soul, which is the quaintest of the lot.
You certainly are a pretty pair of babies playing with your live doll.
Playing? Oh, the hardest job I ever tackled. Make no mistake about that, Mother. But you have no idea how frightfully interesting it is to take a human being and change her into quite a different human being by creating a new speech for her. It's filling up the deepest gulf that separates class from class and soul from soul.
Oh, yes, it's enormously interesting. I assure you, Mrs. Higgins, we take Eliza very seriously. I mean, every week, every day almost, there's some new change. We keep records of every stage, dozens of gramophone discs and photographs.
Yes, by George, it's the most absorbing experiment I've ever tackled. She regularly fills our lives up, doesn't she, Pick?
Yes, and we're always talking about Eliza.
Teaching Eliza.
Dressing Eliza.
What?
Inventing new Elizas.
Yes.
You know, she has the most extraordinary quickness of ear, just like a parrot. I've tried her with every possible sort of sound a human can make. Continental dialects, African dialects, Hottentot clicks. She's like a shot. Right away, as if she'd been at it all her life.
Catch the piano. Beg your pardon.
Well, sorry, but when Pickering starts shouting, nobody can get a word in edgeways.
Be quiet, Henry. Colonel Pickering, don't you realise that when Eliza walked into Wimpole Street, something walked in with her?
Her father did, but Henry will soon get rid of him.
It would have been more to the point if her mother had. But as her mother didn't, something else did.
But what?
A problem.
Oh, the problem of how to pass her off as a lady.
Well, I'll solve that problem. I've half solved it already.
No, you two infinitely stupid male creatures. The problem of what is to be done with her afterwards.
I don't see anything in that. She can go her own way with all the advantages I've given her.
The advantages of that poor woman who was here just now, Mrs. Eynsford Hill. The manners and habits that disqualify a lady from earning her own living without giving her a fine lady's income. Is that what you mean?
Oh, that'll be all right, Mrs. Higgins.
Yes, we'll find her some light employment.
She is happy enough. Don't you worry about her. Goodbye.
Anyhow, there's no good bothering now. The thing's done. Goodbye, Mother.
Goodbye. There are plenty of openings. We'll do what's right. Goodbye.
I say, Pickering, let's take her off to the Shakespeare exhibition at Earl's Court, shall we?
Yes, let's. Her remarks will be delicious.
She'll mimic all the people for us when we get home.
Men!
No, Mr. Shaw. You really were a bit of a proto-feminist ally.
I'm not sure what you mean exactly, but I do believe the world would be much better off if it were run by sensible women like Mrs. Higgins.
Very true. And now I really must insist that we have an interval break.
Now for Act 4. Oh, I do enjoy this part. The Wimpole Street Laboratory, midnight. Nobody in the room. The clock on the mantelpiece strikes 12. The fire is not alight. It is a summer night.
I say, Pick, lock up, will you? I start to going out again.
Right. Can Mrs. Pierce go to bed? We don't want anything more, do we?
Lord, no.
I say, Mrs. Pierce will row if we leave these things lying about in the drawing room.
Oh, well, chuck them over the banisters into the hall, yes? She'll find them there in the morning and put them away all right. Ha ha! She'll think we were drunk.
We are, slightly. Are there any letters?
Didn't look. Wonder where the devil my slippers are.
Only circulars and this coroneted billet doux for you.
Oh, thank you. Oh dear, no. Only money lender, tax. No. All right. What are your? Oh, what an evening, eh? What a crew! What silly tomfoolery! Slippers. There they are.
I feel a bit tired. It's been rather a long day. I mean, the garden party, the dinner party, and the opera is rather too much of a good thing. But you've won your bet, Higgins. Eliza did the trick and something to spare, eh?
Oh, thank God it's over.
Were you nervous at the garden party? I was.
Yeah?
Eliza didn't seem a bit nervous.
Oh, she wasn't nervous. I knew she'd be all right. No, it's the strain of putting the job through all these months that's told on me. It was interesting enough at first while we were at the phonetics, but after I got deadly sick of it. If I hadn't backed myself to do it, I should have chucked the whole thing months ago. The silly notion, the whole thing has been a bore.
Oh, come. But the garden party was frightfully exciting. My heart began beating like anything.
Well, yes, for the first 3 minutes. But when I saw we were going to win hands down, I felt like a bear in a cage, hanging about doing nothing. The dinner was worse, sitting gorging there for over half an hour with nobody but the damned fool of a fashionable woman to talk to. I tell you, Pickering, never again for me. No more artificial duchesses. The whole thing has been simple purgatory.
No, you've never been broken in properly to the social routine. I rather enjoy dipping into it occasionally myself. Makes me feel young again. Anyhow, it was a great success, an immense success. I was quite frightened once or twice because Eliza was doing it so well.
Yes.
You see, lots of the real people can't do it at all. Oh, they're such fools. And they think that style comes by nature to people in their position. And they never learn. Oh, there's always something professional about doing a thing superlatively well.
Yes, well, that's what drives me mad. Yes, the silly people don't know their own silly business. However, it's all over and done with, and I can go to bed at last without dreading tomorrow.
Yes, I think I should turn in myself. Still, it's been a great occasion.
Yes.
A triumph for you. Good night.
Good night. Put the lights out, Liza. Yes. Tell Mrs. Pierce not to make coffee for me in the morning. I'll take tea. Oh, what the devil have I done with my slippers?
There are your slippers! And there! Your slippers, and may you never have a day's luck with them!
Goodness, what on earth? What's the matter? Anything wrong?
Nothing wrong with you! I've won a bet for you, haven't I? That's enough for you. I don't matter, I suppose.
You won my bet? You presumptuous insect. I won it. What did you throw those slippers at me for?
Because I wanted to smash your face. I'd like to kill you, you selfish brute. Why didn't you leave me where you picked me out in the gutter? You thank God it's all over and now you can throw me back again there, do you?
She is nervous after all. Oh, would you? Claws in the cat. How dare you show your temper to me? Sit down and be quiet.
What's to become of me? What's to become of me?
How the devil do I know what's to become of you? What does it matter what it becomes of you?
You don't care. I know you don't care. You wouldn't care if I was dead. I'm nothing to you. Not so much as them slippers.
Those slippers?
Those slippers. I didn't think it made any difference now.
Why have you begun to go on like this? May I ask whether you complain of your treatment here?
No.
Has anybody behaved badly to you? Colonel Pickering, Mrs. Pierce, any of the servants?
No.
I presume you don't pretend that I have treated you badly.
No.
Glad to hear of it. Perhaps you're tired after the strain of the day. Will you have a glass of champagne?
No. Thank you.
She's been coming on for you for some days. I suppose it was natural for you to be anxious about the garden party, but that's all over now. There's nothing more for you to worry about.
No. Nothing more for you to worry about. Oh, God, I wish I was dead.
Why? What was the name? Why? Listen to me, Eliza. All this irritation is purely subjective.
I don't understand. I'm too ignorant.
It's only imagination. Low spirits, nothing else. Nobody's hurting you. Nothing's wrong. You go to bed like a good girl and sleep it off. Have a little cry, say your prayers, and that will make you more comfortable.
I heard your prayers. Thank God it's all over.
Well, don't you thank God it's all over? Now you're free, you can do what you like.
What am I fit for? What have you left me fit for? Where am I to go? What am I to do? What's to become of me?
Oh, so that's what's worrying you, is it? I shouldn't bother about it if I were you. I should imagine you won't have much difficulty settling yourself somewhere or other. Though I hadn't quite realized you were going away. You might marry, you know. Yes. You see, Eliza, not all men are old confirmed bachelors like myself and the Colonel. Most men are the marrying sort, or devils. And you're not bad looking. It's quite a pleasure to look at you sometimes. Not now, of course, because you've been crying. You look ugly as the very devil. But when you're all right and quite yourself, you're what I should call attractive. That is, to the marrying kind. Yes. All right. Well, you go to bed now, have a nice rest, then get up and look at yourself in the glass, and you won't feel so cheap. I dare say my mother could find some chap or another who would do very well.
We were above that at the corner of Tottenham Court Road.
What do you mean?
I sold flowers. I didn't sell myself. Now you've made a lady of me. I'm not fit to sell anything else.
Tosh, Eliza, don't you insult human relations by dragging all this cant about buying and selling into it. You needn't marry the fellow if you don't like him.
What else am I to do?
Oh, lots of things. What about your old idea of a florist shop? Pickering could set you up in one. He's lots of money. Huh? You'll have to pay for all those togs you've been wearing today, and that, with the hire of the jewellery, will make a big hole in about £200, I should think. Why, 6 months ago, you would have thought the millennium to have a flower shop of your own. Come, you'll be all right. Now, I must clear off to bed. The devil is sleepy. By the way, I came down for something, and I forget what it was.
Your slippers.
Oh, yes. You shied them at me.
Before you go, sir.
Eh?
Do my clothes belong to me or to Colonel Pickering?
What the devil use would they be to Pickering?
He might want them for the next girl you pick up to experiment on.
Is that the way you feel towards us?
I don't want to hear anything more about it. All I want to know is whether anything belongs to me. My own clothes were burnt.
What does it matter? Why need you start bothering about that in the middle of the night?
I want to know what I may take away with me. I don't want to be accused of stealing.
Stealing? Well, you shouldn't have said that, Eliza. That shows want of feeling.
I'm sorry. I'm only a common ignorant girl. And in my station, I have to be careful. There can't be any feelings between the like of you and the like of me. Please, will you tell me what belongs to me and what doesn't?
You may take the whole damned house full if you like, except the jewels. They're hired. Will that satisfy you?
Stop, please. Will you take these to your room and keep them safe? I don't want to run the risk of them being missing.
No! Hand them over! If these belong to me instead of the jeweler, I'd ram them down your grateful throat. Yeah?
And this ring? This isn't the jeweler's. It's the one you bought me in Brighton. I don't want it now.
Oh. Ah, you! You!
Don't hit me!
Hit you? Ah, you infamous creature! How dare you accuse me of such a thing? It is you who have hit me! You have wounded me to the heart!
I'm glad. I've got a little of my own back anyhow.
You have caused me to lose my temper, a thing that has hardly ever happened to me before. I prefer to say nothing more tonight. I am going to bed.
You'd better leave a note for Mrs. Pierce about the coffee, for she won't be told by me.
Damn Mrs. Pierce, damn the coffee, and damn you. And damn my own folly for having lavished my hard-earned knowledge and the treasure of my regard and intimacy on a heartless gutter snipe. Ah!
Ah!
Mr. Henry, Mum, is downstairs with Colonel Pickering.
Show them up.
Oh, they're using the telephone, Mum. Telephoning to the police, I think.
What?
Mr. Henry's in a state, Mum. I thought I'd better tell you.
If you had told me that Mr. Henry was not in a state, it would have been more surprising. Tell them to come up when they've finished with the police. I suppose he's lost something.
Yes, Mum.
Go upstairs and tell Miss Doolittle that Mr. Henry and the Colonel are here. Ask her not to come down till I send for her.
Yes, Mum.
Ah! Look here, Mother. Here's the confounded thing.
Yes, dear. Good morning.
Dad.
And what is it?
Liza's bolted.
You must have frightened her.
Ah, frightened her nonsense. She was left last night, as usual, to turn out the lights and all that. And instead of going to bed, she changed her clothes and went right off. Her bed wasn't slept in. She came in for a cab, for all things, before 7 in the morning. That fool Mrs. Pierce let her have them without telling me a word of it. What am I to do?
Do without, I'm afraid, Henry. The girl has a perfect right to leave if she chooses.
But I can't find anything. I don't know what my appointments are. I've got, oh, Pickering.
Good morning, Mrs. Higgins. Has Henry told you?
What does that ass of an inspector say? Eh? Have you offered a reward?
You don't mean to say you've set the police after Liza?
Of course. What are the police for? What else could we do?
The inspector made a lot of difficulties. I really think he suspected us of some improper purpose.
Well, of course he did. What right have you to go to the police and give the girl's name as if she were a thief or a lost umbrella or something? Really?
But we want to find her.
We can't let her go like this, you know, Mrs. Higgins. What were we to do?
You have no more sense, either of you, than 2 children. Why, I don't know.
Mr. Henry, a gentleman wants to see you very particular. He's been sent on from Wimpole Street.
Oh, bother. I can't see anyone now. Who is it?
Mr. Doolittle, sir.
Doolittle? Oh, you mean the dustman?
Dustman? Oh, no, sir, a gentleman.
By George, Pick. Some relative of hers that she's gone to. Somebody we know nothing about. Let's set him up, quick. Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir.
Genteel relatives. Now we shall hear something.
Do you know any of her people?
Only her father, the fellow we told you about.
Mr. Doolittle.
Oh, see ya. Do you see this? You done this.
Done what, man?
This, I tell you. Look at it. Look at this coat.
Has Eliza been buying you clothes?
Eliza? No, not she, not half. Why would she buy me clothes?
Good morning, Mr. Doolittle. Won't you sit down?
Asking your pardon, Mum, thank you. I am full of what has happened to me that I can't think of anything else.
What the dickens has happened to you?
I shouldn't mind if it had only happened to me. Anything might happen to anybody and nobody to blame but Providence, as you might say. But this is something that you done to me. Yes, you, Henry Higgins.
Have you found Eliza? That's the point.
Have you lost her?
Yes.
Oh, you have all the luck, you have. I ain't found her, but she'll find me quick enough now after what you've done to me.
But what has my son done to you, Mr. Doolittle?
Done to me? Ruined me. Destroyed my happiness. Tied me up and delivered me into the hands of middle-class morality.
Oh, you're raving. You're drunk. Hey, you're mad. I gave you £5. After that, I had 2 conversations with you at £0.50 an hour. I've not seen you since.
Oh, drunk am I? Mad am I? Well, tell me this. Did you or did you not write a letter to an old blighter in America that was given $5 million to found moral reform societies all over the world, and that you wanted to invent a universal language for him?
What? Ezra D. Wannerfeller? He's dead.
Yes, he's dead, and I'm done for. Now, did you or did you not write a letter to him to say the most original moralist at present in England, to the best of your knowledge, was Alfred Doolittle, a common dustman?
Well, after your last visit, I remember making some silly joke of the kind.
Yeah, you may well call it a silly joke. He put the lid on me all right enough. Just give him the chance he wanted to show that Americans is not like us, that they recognise and respect merit in every class of life, however humble. Them's the words in his blooming will, in which you, Henry Higgins, thanks to your silly joking, he leaves me a share of his pre-digested cheese trust worth $3,000 a year on condition that I lecture for his Wannerfeller Moral Reform World League as often as they ask me to, up to 6 times a year.
The devil he does. What a lark.
A safe thing for you, Doolittle. They won't ask you twice.
Well, it ain't the lecturing I mind. I'll lecture them blue in the face, I will, and not turn a hair. It's making a gentleman of me that I object to. Who asked him to make a gentleman of me? I was happy. I was free. I touched pretty nigh everybody for money when I wanted it. Same as I touch you, Henry Higgins. Now I'm worried, tied, neck and heels, and everybody touches me for money. It's a fine thing for you, says my solicitor. Is it? Says I. You mean it's a good thing for you, I says. Now, when I was a poor man and had a solicitor, once when they found a pram in my dust cart, he got me off and I got shot of him and he got shot of me as quick as I could. Same with the doctors. Used to shove me out of the hospital before I could hardly stand on my legs and nothing to pay. Now they finds out that I'm not a healthy man and can't live unless they looks after me twice a day. In the house, I'm not let to do a hand's turn for myself. Somebody else must do it for me and touch me for it. A year ago, I hadn't had a relative in the world, except 2 or 3 that wouldn't speak to me. Now, I'm 50 and not a decent week's wages among the lot of them. I have to live for others and not myself. That's middle-class morality. You talk of losing Eliza? Don't be anxious. I bet she's on my doorstep by this. She that couldn't support herself by selling flowers. Now that I'm respectable, and the next one to touch me will be you, Henry Higgins. I'll have to learn to speak middle-class language from you instead of speaking proper English. That's where you'll come in. I dare say that's what you done it for.
But my dear Mr. Doolittle, you need not suffer all of this if you are really in earnest. Nobody can force you to accept this bequest. You can repudiate it. Isn't that so, Colonel Pickering?
I believe so.
What? That's the tragedy of it, ma'am. It's easier to say chuck it, but I haven't a nerve. Which one of us has? We're all intimidated. Intimidated, ma'am. That's what we are. What is there for me if I chuck it but the workhouse at my old age? I have to dye my hair already to keep my job as a dustman. If I was one of the undeserving poor and had put by a bit, I could chuck it. But then, why would I? Because the deserving poor might as well be millionaires for all the happiness they ever has. They don't know what happiness is. I, as one of the undeserving poor, I've nothing between me and a pauper's uniform but this here bleeding 3,000 a year that shoves me into the middle class. Oh, excuse the expression, Mum. You'd use it yourself if you had my provocation. Well, they got you everywhere you turn. It's the choice between the skilly, the workhouse, and the childbinders, the middle class, and I haven't a nerve for the workhouse. Intimidated. That's what I am. Broke. Bought up. Happier men than me will call for my dust and touch me for their tip. And I'll look on helpless and envy them. Well, that's what your son has brought me.
I'm very glad you're not going to do anything foolish, Mr. Doolittle, for this solves the problem of Eliza's future. You can provide for her now.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm expected to provide for everyone now. 3,000 a year.
Nonsense. He can't provide for her. Shan't provide for her. She doesn't belong to him. I paid £5 for her. Doolittle, either you're an honest man or a rogue.
Well, a little of both, Henry, like the rest of us. A little of both.
Well, you took the money for the girl and you have no right to take her as well.
Henry, don't be absurd. If you really want to know where Eliza is, she is upstairs.
Upstairs? Then I shall jolly soon fetch her downstairs.
Be quiet, Henry. Sit down.
I have to,
Sit down, dear, and listen to me.
Very, very well.
But I think I should have told you this half an hour ago. Eliza came to me this morning. She passed the night partly walking about in a rage, partly trying to throw herself in the river, and being afraid to, partly in the Carlton Hotel. She told me of the brutal way you treated her.
Oh, what? Really?
Mrs. Higgins, she's been telling you stories. We did not treat her brutally. In fact, we hardly said a word to her, and we parted on particularly good terms. Higgins, did you bully her after I went to bed?
Just the other way about. She threw my slippers in my face. She behaved in the most outrageous way. I never gave her the slightest provocation. The slippers came bang into my face the moment I entered the room, before I'd uttered a word. And she used perfectly awful language.
But why? What did we do to her?
I think I know pretty well what you did. The girl is naturally rather affectionate, I think. Isn't she, Mr. Doolittle?
Oh, very tender-hearted, ma'am. Takes after me.
Just so. She had become attached to you both. She worked very hard for you, Henry. I don't think you quite realize what anything in the nature of brain work does to a girl like that. Well, it seems that when the great day of trial came, and she did this wonderful thing for you without making a single mistake, you two sat there and never said a word to her, but talked together of how glad you were that it was all over, and how you had been bored with the whole thing. And then you were surprised because she threw her slippers at you. I should have thrown the fire irons at you.
We said nothing except that we were tired and wanted to go to bed, did we, Pick?
Yes, that was all.
Quite sure?
Absolutely. Really, that was all.
You didn't thank her, or pet her, or admire her, or tell her how splendid she'd been?
But she knew all about that. We didn't make speeches to her, if that's what you mean.
Perhaps we were a little inconsiderate. Is she very angry?
Well, I'm afraid she won't go back to Wimpole Street, especially now that Mr. Doolittle is able to keep up the position you have thrust upon her. But she said she is quite willing to meet you on friendly terms and let bygones be bygones.
Steve, by George, oh.
If you promise to behave yourself, Henry, I'll ask her to come down. If not, go home, for you have taken up quite enough of my time.
Oh, all right, very well. Pick, you behave yourself. Let us put out our best Sunday manners for this creature that we picked up out of the mud.
Now, Henry Higgins, have some consideration for my feelings as a middle-class man.
Remember your promise, Henry. Mr. Doolittle, will you be so good as to step up to the balcony for a moment? I don't want Eliza to have the shock of your news until she has made it up with these two gentlemen. Would you mind?
As you wish, lady. Anything that will Henry keep her off my hands.
Ask Miss Doolittle to come down, please.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Now, Henry, be good.
I am behaving myself perfectly.
He's doing his best, Mrs. Higgins.
Henry, dearest, you don't look at all nice in that attitude.
Not trying to look nice, Mother.
It doesn't matter, dear. I only wanted to make you speak.
Why?
Because you can't speak and whistle at the same time.
Oh, where the devil is that girl? Are we meant to wait here for her all day?
How do you do, Professor Higgins? Are you quite well? But of course you are. You are never ill. So glad to see you again. Colonel Pickering. Oh, quite chilly this morning, isn't it?
Don't you dare try this game on me. I taught it to you, and it doesn't take me in. Get up and come home, and don't be a fool.
Very nicely put indeed, Henry. No woman could resist such an invitation.
Oh, you let her alone, Mother. Let her speak for herself. You'll jolly soon see whether she has an idea that I haven't put into her head or a word that I haven't put into her mouth. I tell you, I've created this thing out of the squashed cabbage leaves of Covent Garden, and now she pretends to play the fine lady with me.
Yes, dear. But you'll sit down, won't you?
Will you drop me altogether now the experiment is over, Colonel Pickering?
Oh, don't. You mustn't think of it as an experiment. It shocks me somehow.
No. I'm only a squashed cabbage leaf.
No.
But I owe so much to you that I should be very unhappy if you forgot me.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say so, Miss Doolittle.
It's not because you paid for my dresses. I know you are generous to everybody with money, but it was from you that I learnt really nice manners. And that is what makes one a lady, isn't it? You see, it was so very difficult for me with the example of Professor Higgins always before me. I was brought up to be just like him, uncontrollable and using bad language on the slightest provocation. And I should have never known that ladies and gentlemen didn't behave like that if you hadn't been there.
Well,
it's only his way, you know. He doesn't mean it.
I didn't mean it either when I was a flower girl. It was only my way. But you see, I did it, and that's what makes the difference after all.
Oh, no doubt. Still, he taught you to speak, and I couldn't have done that, you know.
Of course. It is his profession.
Damnation.
It was just like learning to dance in the fashionable way. There was nothing more than that in it. But do you know what began my real education?
What?
You calling me Miss Doolittle that day when I first came to Wimpole Street. That was the beginning of self-respect for me. And there were hundreds of little things you never noticed because they came naturally to you. Things about standing up and taking off your hat and opening doors.
Oh, that was nothing.
Yes. Things that showed you thought and felt about me as if I was something better than a scullery maid. Though, of course, I know you would have been just the same to a scullery maid if she had been let into the drawing room. You never took off your boots in the dining room when I was there.
You mustn't mind that. Higgins takes his boots off all over the place.
I know, I'm not blaming him. It is his way, isn't it? But it made such a difference to me that you didn't do it. You see, really and truly, apart from the things anyone can pick up, the dressing and the proper way of speaking and so on, the difference between a lady and a flower girl is not how she behaves, but how she's treated. I shall always be a flower girl to Professor Higgins, because he always treats me as a flower girl, and always will. But I know I can be a lady to you, because you always treat me as a lady and always will.
Please don't grind your teeth, Henry.
Well, this is really very nice of you, Miss Doolittle.
I should like you to call me Eliza now, if you would.
Thank you. Eliza, of course.
And I should like Professor Higgins to call me Miss Doolittle.
Oh, I'll see you damned first.
Henry!
Why don't you slang back at him? Don't stand it. It would do him a lot of good.
Oh, I can't. I could have done it once, but now I can't go back to it. Last night when I was wondering about, a girl spoke to me, and I tried to get back into the old way with her, but it was no use. You told me, you know, that when a child is brought to a foreign country, it picks up the language in a few weeks and forgets its own. Well, I am a child in your country. I have forgotten my own language and can speak nothing but yours. That's the real break-off with the corner of Tottenham Court Road. Leaving Wimpole Street finishes it.
Oh, but you're coming back to Wimpole Street, aren't you? You'll forgive Higgins.
Give? Will she bite, George? Let her go. Let her find out how she can get on without us. She'll relapse into the gutter in 3 weeks without me at her elbow.
He's incorrigible, Eliza. You won't relapse, will you?
No, not now. Never again. I have learnt my lesson. I don't believe I could utter one of the old sounds if I tried.
Just so. Victory!
Well, can you blame the girl? Don't look at me like that, Eliza. It ain't my fault I come in a money.
You must have touched a millionaire this time, Dad.
I have, but I'm dressed something special today. I'm going to St. George's, Hanover Square. Your stepmother is going to marry me.
You're going to let yourself down to marry that low, common woman?
Oh, he ought to, Eliza. Why? Has she changed her mind?
Well, intimidated, Governor. Intimidated. Middle-class morality claims its victim. Won't you put your hat on, Liza, and come and see me turned off?
If the Colonel says I must, I'll demean myself and get insulted for my pains like enough.
And don't be afraid. She never comes to words with anyone now, poor woman. Respectability has broke all the spirit in her.
Be kind to them, Eliza. Make the best of it.
Oh, well, just to show there's no ill feeling. I'll be back in a moment.
Oh, I feel uncommon nervous about the ceremony, Colonel. I wish you'd come and see me through it.
Oh, but you've been through it before, man. You were married to Eliza's mother.
Who told you that, Colonel?
Well, nobody told me. I concluded naturally.
No, that ain't a natural way, Colonel. It's the middle-class way. My way was always the undeserving way. But don't say nothing to Eliza. She don't know. I always had the delicacy about telling her.
Quite right. Well, we'll leave it so if you don't mind.
Ah, and you'll come to the church, Colonel, and put me straight?
With a pleasure. As far as a bachelor can.
May I come, Mr. Doolittle? I should be very sorry to miss your wedding.
Oh, I should be honoured by your condescension, ma'am, and my poor old woman would take it as a tremendous compliment. She's been very low of late, thinking of the happy days that are no more.
I'll order the carriage and get ready. I shan't be any more than 15 minutes. I'm going to the church to see your father married, Eliza. You had better come in the brougham with me. Colonel Pickering can go on with the bridegroom.
Oh, bridegroom! What a word! Makes a man realise his position somehow.
Before I go, Eliza, do forgive him and come back to us.
I don't think Papa would allow me. Would you, Dad?
Oh, they played you off very cunning, Eliza, them two sportsmen. If it had only been one of them, you could have nailed him. But you see, there are two of them, and one of them chaperoned the other, as you might say. It was artful of you, Colonel, but I bear no malice. I should have done the same myself. I've been a victim of one woman after another all my life, and I don't grudge you two getting the better of Eliza. I shan't interfere. Time for us to go, Colonel. So long, Henry. See you in St. George's, Eliza.
Oh, do stay with us, Eliza.
Well, Eliza, you've had a bit of your own back, as you call it, huh? You had enough? You going to be reasonable? Or do you want any more?
You want me back, only to pick up your slippers and put up with your tempers and fetch and carry for you.
I haven't said I wanted you back at all.
Oh, indeed? Then what are we talking about?
About you, not about me. If you come back, I shall treat you just as I have always treated you. I can't change my nature, and I don't intend to change my manners. My manners are exactly the same as Colonel Pickering's.
That's not true. He treats a flower girl as if she was a duchess.
And I treat a duchess as if she were a flower girl.
I see. The same to everybody.
Just so.
Like father.
Without accepting the comparison at all points, Eliza, it's quite true that your father is not a snob, and he will be quite at home in any station of life to which his eccentric destiny may call him. The great secret, Eliza, is not having bad manners or good manners or any other particular sort of manners, but having the same manner for all human souls. In short, behaving as if you were in heaven, where there are no third-class carriages and one soul is as good as another.
Amen. You are a born preacher.
The question is not whether I treat you rudely, but whether you've ever heard me treat anyone else better.
I don't care how you treat me. I don't mind your swearing at me, and I don't mind a black eye. I've had one before this. But I won't be passed over.
Then get out of my way, for I won't stop for you. You talk about me as if I were a motor bus.
No, you are a motor bus, all bounce and go and no consideration for anyone. But I can do without you. Don't think I can't.
I know you can. I told you you could.
I know you did, you brute. You wanted to get rid of me.
Liar.
Thank you.
You never asked yourself, I suppose, whether I could do without you.
Don't you try get around me. You'll have to do without me.
No, I can do without anybody. I have my own soul, my own spark of divine fire. But I shall miss you, Eliza. I've learned something from your idiotic notions. I confess that humbly and gratefully. I've grown accustomed to your voice and appearance. I like them, rather.
Well, you have both of them on your gramophone and in your book of photographs. When you feel lonely without me, you can turn the machines on. It's got no feelings to hurt.
I can't turn your soul on. Leave me those feelings and you can take away the voice and the face. They are not you.
Oh, you are a devil. You can twist the heart in a girl as easy as some could twist her arms to hurt her. Mrs. Pierce warned me. Time and again she has wanted to leave you and you always got round her at the last minute. And you don't care a bit for her and you don't care a bit for me.
I care for life, for humanity. You are a part of it that has come my way and been built into my house. What more can you or anyone ask?
I won't care for anybody that doesn't care for me.
Commercial principles, Eliza, like Ciel violets, isn't it?
Don't sneer at me. It's mean to sneer at me.
I've never sneered in my life. Sneering doesn't become either the human face or the human soul. I'm expressing my righteous contempt for commercialism. I don't and I won't trade in affection. You call me a brute because you couldn't buy a claim on me by fetching my slippers and finding my spectacles. You were a fool. I think a woman fetching a man's slippers is a disgusting sight. Did I ever fetch your slippers? I think a good deal more of you for throwing them in my face. Now you slaving for me and then saying you want to be cared for. Who cares for a slave? If you come back for the sake of good fellowship, for you'll get nothing else. You've had 1,000 times as much out of me as I have out of you. And if you dare set up your little dog's tricks of fetching and carrying slippers against my creation of a duchess, Eliza, I'll slam the door in your silly face.
What did you do it for if you didn't care for me?
Why, because it was my job.
You never thought of the trouble it would make for me.
Would the world ever have been made if its maker had been afraid of making trouble? Making life means making trouble. There's only one way of escaping trouble, and that's killing things. Cowards, you notice, always shrieking to have troublesome people killed.
I'm no preacher. I don't notice things like that. I notice that you don't notice me.
Well, Eliza, you're an idiot. I waste the treasures of my Miltonic mind by spreading them before you. Huh? Once for all, understand that I go my way and do my work without getting tuppence what happens to either of us. I'm not intimidated like your father and your stepmother. So you can come back or go to the devil, whichever you please.
What am I to come back for?
Why? For the fun of it. That's why I took you on.
And you may throw me out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to do.
Yes, and you may walk out tomorrow if I don't do everything you want me to.
And live with my stepmother.
Yes, or sell flowers.
Oh, if only I could go back to my flower basket. I should be independent of both you and father and all the world. Why did you take my independence from me? I mean, why did I give it up? I'm a slave now for all my fine clothes.
Not a bit. I'll adopt you as my daughter and settle money on you if you like, or would you rather marry Pickering?
I wouldn't marry you if you asked me, and you're nearer my age than what he is.
Than he is, not than what he is.
I'll talk as I like. You're not my teacher now.
I suppose Pickering would, though. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. He's as confirmed an old bachelor as I am.
That's not what I want. And don't you think it. I've always had chaps enough wanting me that way. Freddie Hill writes to me 2 and 3 times a day, sheets and sheets.
Damn his impudence.
He has a right if he likes. Poor lad. And he does love me.
Well, you have no right to encourage him.
Every girl's got a right to be loved.
Oh, what? By fools like that?
Freddie's not a fool. And if he's weak and poor and wants me, maybe he'd make me happier than my betters that bully me and don't want me.
Can he make anything of you? That's the point.
Perhaps I could make something of him. But I never thought of us making anything of one another. And you never think of anything else. I only want to be natural.
In short, you want me to be as infatuated about you as Freddie. Is that it?
No, I don't. That's not the sort of feelings I want from you. And don't you be too sure of yourself or of me. I could have been a bad girl if I'd liked. I've seen more of some things than you, for all your learning. Girls like me can drag gentlemen down to make love to them easy enough, and they wish each other dead the next minute.
Of course they do. That's what in thunder. Huh. What in thunder are we then quarrelling about, Liza?
I want a little kindness. I know I'm a common, ignorant girl, and you're a book-learned gentleman, but I'm not dirt under your feet. What I did was not for the dresses and the taxis. I did it because we were pleasant together, and I came to care for you, not to want you to make love to me and not forgetting the difference between us, but more friendly-like.
Well, of course. That's just how I feel, and how Pickering feels. Eliza, you're a fool.
That's not a proper answer to give me.
Well, it's all you'll get until you stop being a common idiot. If you're going to be a lady, you'll have to give up feeling neglected if the men you know don't spend half their time snivelling over you and the other half giving you black eyes. If you can't stand the coldness of my sort of life and the strain of it, go back to the gutter. Work till you're more a brute than a human being, and then cuddle and squabble and drink till you fall asleep. Oh, it's a fine life, the life of the gutter. It's real. It's warm, it's violent. You can feel it through the thicker skin. You can taste it and smell it without any training or any work. Not like science, literature, classical music, philosophy, and art. You'll find me cold, unfeeling, selfish, don't you? Very well, be off with you to your sort of people you like. Marry some sentimental hog or other with lots of money and a thick pair of lips to kiss you and a thick pair of boots to kick you with. You can't appreciate what you've got, you better get what you can appreciate.
Oh, you are a cruel tyrant. I can't talk to you. You turn everything against me. I'm always in the wrong, but you know very well all the time that you're nothing but a bully. You know I can't go back to the gutter, as you call it, and that I have no real friends in the world but you and the Colonel. You know well I can't bear to live with the low common man after you two, and it's wicked and cruel of you to insult me by pretending I could. You think I must go back to Wimpole Street because I have nowhere else to go but father's. But don't you be too sure that you have me under your feet to be trampled on and talked down. I'll marry Freddie. I will, as soon as he's able to support me.
Rubbish! You shall marry an ambassador. You shall marry the Governor-General of India or the Lord Lieutenant of Ireland or somebody who wants a deputy queen. I'm not going to have my masterpiece thrown away on a Freddie.
You think I like you to say that? But I haven't forgotten what you said a minute ago, and I won't be coaxed round as if I were a baby or a puppy. If I can't have kindness, I'll have independence.
Independence? Oh, that's middle-class blasphemy. We're all dependent on one another, every soul of us on earth.
I'll let you see whether I'm dependent on you. If you can preach, I can teach. I'll go and be a teacher.
Who teach? What'll you teach, in heaven's name?
What you taught me. I'll teach phonetics. I'll offer myself as an assistant to Professor Nepean.
Oh, what? That impostor, that humbug, that toady and ignoramus. Teach him my methods, my discoveries. You take one step in his direction and I will wring your neck. Do you hear?
Bring away! What do I care? I know you'd strike me someday. Ha ha! Now I know how to deal with you. What a fool I was to not think of it before. You can't take away the knowledge you gave me. You said I had a finer ear than you, and I can be civil and kind to people, which is more than you can. Oh, that's done you. Yes, Henry Higgins, it has. Now, I don't care that for your bullying and your big talk. Oh, I'll advertise it in the papers that your Duchess is only a flower girl that you taught, and she'll teach anybody who wants to be a Duchess just the same in 6 months for 1,000 guineas. Oh, when I think of myself crawling under your feet and being trampled on and calling names, when all the time I had to only lift up my finger to be as good as you, I could just kick myself.
You damned impudent slut, you, eh? But it's better than snivelling, better than fetching slippers and finding spectacles, isn't it? By George, Eliza, I said I'd make a woman of you. And I have. I like you like this.
Yes, you turn round and make up to me now that I'm not afraid of you and can do without you.
Of course I do, you little fool. 5 minutes ago, you were like a millstone around my neck. Now you're a tower of strength, a consort battleship. You and I and Pickering will be 3 old bachelors together instead of only 2 men and a silly girl.
The carriage is waiting. Liza, are you ready?
Quite. Is the professor coming?
Certainly not. He can't behave himself in church. He makes remarks out loud all the time on the clergyman's pronunciation.
Oh, then I shall not see you again, Professor. Goodbye.
Goodbye, dear.
Goodbye, Mother. Oh, by the way, Eliza, order a ham and a Stilton cheese, will you? And buy me a pair of reindeer gloves, number 8s, I should think, and a tie to match that new suit of mine at Eel and Binman's. You can choose the colour.
Buy them yourself.
I'm afraid you've spoiled that girl, Henry. But never mind, dear. I'll buy you your tie and gloves.
Oh, don't bother. She'll buy them all right enough. Goodbye.
The rest of the story need not be shown in action, and indeed would hardly need telling if our imaginations were not so enfeebled by Hollywood.
Oh, please, Mr. Shaw, you're cutting out an entire important scene. Eliza goes back to Higgins.
No, I detest that scene. I never wanted it put in the 1938 film, and I certainly didn't appreciate what they did with it in that musical after my death.
Can't we at least act out your epilogue while you narrate or something? Audiences like that kind of thing. Don't you, audiences?
I disapprove. But I suppose I'll let you sing as I've taken over most of your production.
Well, that's good, Mr. Shaw? Oh, he's gone again.
Excuse me, Madam Director. Mr. Shaw decided to go back to his grave. He finally decided that was preferable to staying to see the rest of the play because he was very unhappy with the direction he was going. But he left copious notes here for the cast to carry on with. So
are we doing his epilogue after all?
Apparently.
Right. Well, if you've got the notes there, you might as well read them.
Right. Cast, be ready. Now, as I said before, the history of Eliza Doolittle is common enough. Such transfigurations have been achieved by hundreds of resolutely ambitious young women since Nell Gwynn set them the example by playing queens and fascinating kings in the theater in which she began by selling oranges. Nevertheless, people in all directions have assumed, for no other reason than that she became the heroine of a romance, that she must have married the hero of it.
So is Shaw telling us that they didn't get married after all?
No. He says no. By Jove, no, he says. This desperate need for a tidy romance is unbearable. And in telling Higgins she would not marry him if he asked her, Eliza was not coquetting. She was announcing a well-considered decision.
Right.
When a bachelor interests and dominates and teaches and becomes important to a spinster, as Higgins with Eliza, she always considers very seriously indeed whether she will play for becoming that bachelor's wife. At Eliza's age, a good-looking girl does not feel any pressure. She feels free to pick and choose. She is therefore guided by her instinct in the matter. Eliza's instinct tells her not to marry Higgins. It does not tell her to give him up.
But I can't believe he's saying this. All of us, the whole cast, thought that she'd end up with Higgins.
I didn't.
You didn't. All right, well, fine. And I know my mother always wanted Eliza to end up with Higgins. Doesn't everybody's mum want that? I mean, come on.
Let me see here. Well, as all of your instincts are not appealed to by Eliza's conclusion, let us see whether we cannot discover some reason in it. When Higgins excused his indifference to young women on the ground that they had an irresistible rival in his mother, oh dear, he gave the clue to his inveterate old bachelordom. If an imaginative boy has a sufficiently rich mother who has intelligence, personal grace, dignity of character without harshness, well, that's a bit much, and a cultivated sense of the best of art of her time, she sets a standard for him against which very few women can struggle. Wonder how Shaw felt about his mother. She also inadvertently induces him to disengage his affections, his sense of beauty, and his idealism from his specifically sexual impulses. Now, that's a bit creepy. All told, this makes him a standing puzzle to a huge number of uncultivated people.
I always just assumed that Higgins and Pickering were in a closeted gay relationship.
How could you not, really?
Yeah, I mean, oh, well, he probably wouldn't understand.
No.
It's the 21st century. He wouldn't understand.
Yes, things have changed a fair bit. Now, where is it? Where was it? Where is it? Let me find my place here. Now, though Eliza was incapable of thus explaining to herself Higgins' formidable powers of resistance to the charm that prostrated Freddie at the first glance, she was instinctively aware that she could never obtain a complete grip of him or come between him and his mother, which is the first necessity of the married woman. True that. To put it shortly, she knew that for some mysterious reason, he had not the makings of a married man in him, according to her conception of a husband as one to whom she would be his nearest and fondest and warmest interest. And now, whom did Eliza marry? Well, that can be told very shortly to those who have not guessed it from the indications she has herself given them. Almost immediately after Eliza is stung into proclaiming her considered determination not to marry Higgins, she mentions the fact that young Mr. Frederick Eynsford Hill is pouring out his love for her daily through the post. Now, Freddie is young, practically 20 years younger than Higgins. He is a gentleman, or as Eliza would say, a toff. Toff, and speaks like one. He is nicely dressed, is treated by the colonel as an equal, loves her unaffectedly, and is not her master, nor ever likely to dominate her in spite of his advantage of social standing. Eliza has no use for the foolish romantic tradition that all women love to be mastered, if not actually bullied and beaten.
Romantic, misogynistic more like.
Oh, dear. Women, like men, admire those that are stronger than themselves, Okay. But to admire a strong person and to live under that strong person's thumb are two different things. And the weak never seem to have the least difficulty in marrying people who are too good for them. Oh, that's good. I need to remember that one. Weak people essentially want to marry strong people who do not frighten them too much. This being the state of human affairs, what is Eliza fairly sure to do when she is placed between Freddie and Higgins? Will she look forward to a lifetime of fetching Higgins' slippers or to a lifetime of Freddie fetching hers? Well, there can be no doubt about the answer. If she marries either of them, she will marry Freddie. Well, and that is just what Eliza did.
No.
Complications ensued. Here we go. But they were economic, not romantic. Freddie had no money and no occupation. His prospects consisted of a hope that if he kept up appearances, somebody would do something for him. The something appeared vaguely to his imagination as a private secretaryship or a senator of some sort. To his mother, it perhaps appeared as a marriage to some lady of means who could not resist her boy's niceness. Fancy her feelings when he married a flower girl who had become déclassée under extraordinary circumstances, which were now notorious. It is true. Now, wait a minute. Let me see. It is true that Eliza's situation did not seem wholly ineligible. Thank God people don't talk like that anymore. Her father, though formerly a dustman and now fantastically disclassed, had become extremely popular in the smartest society by a social talent which triumphed over every prejudice and every disadvantage. At intimate ducal dinners, he sat on the right hand of the Duchess, and in country houses, he smoked in the pantry and was made much of by the butler when he was not feeding in the dining room and being consulted by cabinet ministers.
Wow.
But he found it almost as hard to do all this on $4,000 a year as Mrs. Eynsford Hill found it to live in Earl's Court on an income so pitiably smaller that, and Shaw says, he has not the heart to disclose its exact figure. Well, that's sad. He absolutely refused to add the last straw to his burden by contributing to Eliza's support. All right. Now, what's this? Is a bit fuzzy. It says, thus, Freddie and Eliza, now Mr. and Mrs. Eynsford Hill, would have spent a penniless honeymoon, but for a wedding present of £500 from the Colonel to Eliza. It would last a long time, but not forever. And the young couple knew, and Eliza felt as well, that they must shift for themselves in the end. When she consulted the Wimpole Street bachelors, Higgins declined to be bothered about her housing problem when that solution was so simple. She could quarter herself on Wimpole Street. Yeah. But she could not quarter Freddie there, of course. It would be detrimental to his dignity and his character. However, pleas as to Freddie's character and the moral obligation on him to earn his own living were lost on Higgins. Everything's lost on Higgins. Higgins flatly denied that Freddie had any character and declared that if he tried to do any useful work, some competent person would have the trouble of undoing it. When Eliza referred again to her project of teaching phonetics, Higgins abated not a jot of his violent opposition to it. And it was evident that the Colonel agreed with him. And so she felt she could not go against them in this grave matter, and that she had no right, without Higgins' consent, to exploit the knowledge he had given her. Well, that's admirable. Besides, she was superstitiously devoted to them both, more entirely and frankly after her marriage than before it. It was the Colonel who finally solved the problem, which had cost him much perplexed cogitation. He one day asked Eliza, rather shyly, whether she had quite given up on her notion of keeping a flower shop. She replied that she had thought of it, but had put it out of her head because the Colonel had said that day at Mrs. Higgins that it would never do. The Colonel confessed that when he had said that, he had not quite recovered from the dazzling impression of the day before. They broke the matter to Higgins that evening. The sole comment vouchsafed by him very nearly led to a serious quarrel with Eliza. It was to the effect that she would have in Freddie an ideal errand boy. Ooh. Ouch. Freddie himself was next sounded on the subject. He said that he and his pennilessness had also been thinking of a shop. He agreed that it would be extraordinarily jolly to go early every morning with Eliza to Covent Garden and buy flowers on the scene of that first meeting, a sentiment which earned him many kisses from his wife. He added that he had always been afraid to propose anything of the sort because Clara would make an awful row about a step that must damage her matrimonial chances. And his mother would not be expected to like it after clinging for so many years to that step of the social ladder on which retail trade is impossible. Oh. This difficulty was removed by an event highly unexpected by Freddie's mother. Clara, in the course of her incursions into artistic circles, discovered that her conversational qualifications were expected to include a grounding in the novels of Mr. H.G. Wells. What's he got to do with this? She borrowed them in various directions so energetically that she swallowed them all within 2 months. And the result was a conversion of a kind quite common today. Poor Clara, who appeared to Higgins and his mother as a disagreeable and ridiculous person. Disagreeable for sure, I don't know about ridiculous. And to her own mother as in some inexplicable way a social failure, was increasingly becoming desperate and unhappy, and was in fact an ignorant, incompetent, pretentious, unwelcome, penniless, useless little snob. Damn. She had a startling eye-opener when, on being suddenly wakened to enthusiasm by a girl of her own age, who dazzled her and produced in her a gushing desire to take her for a model and gain her friendship, she discovered that this exquisite apparition had graduated from the gutter in a few months' time. It shook her so violently that when she also encountered the puissant works of Mr. H.G. Wells, they placed her at the angle of view from which the life she was leading and the society to which she clung appeared in its true relation to real human needs and worthy social structure, and Mr. Wells effected an amazing conversion. Clara's snobbery went bang. Life suddenly began to move with her. Without knowing how or why, she began to make friends and enemies and have some sincere human contact. When Freddie paid a visit to Earl's Court, which he never did when he could possibly help it, to make the desolating announcement that he and his Eliza were thinking of blackening the large lady escutcheon by opening a shop, perished the thought, he found the little household already convulsed by a prior announcement from Clara that she also was going to work in an old furniture shop in Dover Street. You following me? Clara had made up her mind that she would see Mr. Wells in the flesh, and she had achieved her end at a garden party. Mr. Wells came up to her expectations and proved irresistible. Clara talked of nothing else for weeks and weeks afterwards. And as she happened to talk to the lady of the furniture shop, and that lady also desired above all things to know Mr. Wells and sell pretty things to him, she offered Clara a job on the chance of achieving that end through her. Brilliant. And so it came about that Eliza's luck held, and the expected opposition to the flower shop melted away. Now, wait, what's this? Now, here is a last opportunity for romance. Would you not like to be assured that the shop was an immense success, thanks to Eliza's charms and her early business experience in Covent Garden? Yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah, right? I know. Alas, the truth is the truth. The shop did not pay for a long time simply because Eliza and her Freddie did not know how to keep it. Colonel Pickering, after making the ends meet over and over again, good man that Pickering, at last gently insisted that they engage a bookkeeper. Eliza, humbled to the dust, grasped the fact that business, like phonetics, had to be learned. Their commercial school days were a period of disgrace and despair for the young couple. They seemed to be learning nothing about flower shops. At last, they gave it up as hopeless and shook the dust of the shorthand schools and the polytechnics and the London School of Economics from their feet forever. London School of Economics. Besides, the business was in some mysterious way beginning to take care of itself. They had somehow forgotten their early objections to employing other people. Good call. They came to the conclusion that they had really a remarkable talent for business. They soon discovered that there was money in asparagus. Asparagus. And asparagus led to other vegetables. Mr. F. Hill, hang on. Mr. F. Hill, florist and greengrocer, had an air which stamped the business as classy. And in private life, he was still Frederick Eynsford Hill, Esquire. Not that there was any swank about him, but Eliza herself swanked like anything. Swanked like anything.
Oh, gosh.
That is all. Okay, that's what he said. I guess that's it. That is all. That is how it has turned out. It is astonishing how much Eliza still manages to meddle in the housekeeping at Wimpole Street, in spite of the shop and her own family.
But what about Higgins and Eliza? I can't just.
I don't see anything more. Oh, hang on. Wait a minute. Well, I mean, he already said she married Freddie.
True.
Well, hang on. Here we go. As Eliza herself said, and Higgins agreed with her, she didn't want to make love to him, but felt more friendly-like. Oh, boy. Well, friendly, albeit constantly at war. It is notable that though she never nags her husband and frankly loves the Colonel as if she were his favorite daughter, she has never got out of the habit of nagging Higgins that was established on the fatal night when she won his bet for him. She snaps his head off on the faintest provocation. Yeah. He no longer dares to tease her by assuming an abysmal inferiority of Freddie's mind to his own. He storms and bullies and derides, but she stands up to him so ruthlessly that the Colonel has to ask her from time to time to be kinder to Higgins. And it is the only request of his that brings a muleless expression to her face.
Oh, I would have thought that Higgins needs Eliza. He's grown accustomed to her face. What does it say about that?
Oh, wait, this looks like it. No, not at all. Eliza knows very well that Higgins does not need her, just as her father did not need her. She has an inner certainty that she is, he's got in quotes, no more to him than them slippers, unquote. Yet she has a sense, too, that his indifference is deeper than the infatuation of commoner souls. She is immensely interested in him, immensely interested. She has even secret mischievous moments in which she wishes she could get him alone on a desert island and just drag him off his pedestal and see him making love like any common man.
Aha, so he does admit there's something more between them. Ha!
Yeah, but it's weird, though. Let's see. Well, we all have private imaginations of that sort, true. But when it comes to business, to the life that she really leads as distinguished from the life of dreams and fantasies, she likes Freddie and she likes the Colonel, and she does not like Higgins and Mr. Doolittle. Galatia never does quite like Pygmalion. His relation to her is too godlike to be altogether agreeable. So there you have it. Okay, I guess he's winding it up now. So there you have it. My sequel to the play I promised you all at the outset. I think you'll find it much preferable to those hideous ideas of romance between Higgins and Eliza that trash of a musical seems to delight in intimating. Yeah.
Well, I must say the play is definitely less exciting than the musical. I think I really miss those wonderful songs that we spent weeks rehearsing. Do you remember what that was like? Far out. Anyway, well, I'm going to leave it up to the audience, I guess. What do you think, audience? Lerner and Lowe's My Fair Lady or Shaw's Pygmalion? I leave it to you. Well, I wonder where he's gone. I suppose he's gone back to his grave. Probably spent plenty of time turning over it over the last 50 or 70 years.
Well, he actually does say a little. He does say something about why he went back.
Yes.
The 21st century is far too superficial and technologically overwhelming for my taste.
Fair enough.
All this nonsense.
Yeah, he didn't seem to like Zoom very much.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's the end then, and you and I should just go and have a glass of that whiskey I keep in my office. What do you think?
Oh,
I know Mr. Shaw always liked whiskey.
I hope you've got most of the bottle.
Yeah, I think I'll need it. See ya. Thank you for watching George Bernard Shaw's Pygmalion. We hope you've enjoyed our show. This has been a staged reading workshop of a brand new adaptation of this classic play. Please now welcome our wonderful cast back to your screens, the Commoners of Covent Garden. And the Earl's Court Toffs. And the Wimpole Street Crew. And the playwright himself, George Bernard Shaw. And finally, the creative and production team. And we are Stream Shakespeare. Thank you so much. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, or you can simply check out our website, www.streamshakespeare.com, to see our other work or to donate. We're completely self-funded, and all donations are very much appreciated and go towards our next production. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.